Story 1. Husband wants to divorce and start over, says he can't bond with daughter. Throwaway because I want to fix this, and I'm paranoid about more people in our lives finding out. It's all so fucked up already. I don't want more stress. My husband, 29M, and I, 30NB, have been married for 5 years. I gave birth to our first child in September, a girl. My husband was present for most of my labor, but things went very pear-shaped, and I had to have an emergency C-section. The doctors told him to leave the room and wait outside. In short, he did not see our daughter be born. A week ago, he informed me that he wants to divorce and start over on his dreams of having a family. He insists that he cannot bond with our daughter and says it's because he didn't see her being born. He said a lot about how it's always been a dream of his to have a small, close-knit family, and now he can't have that with me because of the C-section and his not being in the room. His dad suggested therapy, but husband refused, saying he knew it wouldn't work. I've made sure he knows I'm open to the idea if he changes his mind, but he's been very insistent that he knows this can't be fixed. Part of me knows I'm basically asking for a magic spell here, but does anyone have any ideas how, if this can be fixed? I'll try to answer any questions anyone may have. Sorry if the flare isn't correct, I just guessed. Update 1. January 22, 2024. I wanted to update and thank everyone who sympathized with me and tried to help. There isn't much new, but some things have happened. I can't link my first post here according to the rules, but these 2 posts are the only ones this throwaway has, so it should be easy to find. TLDR, I, 30NB, gave birth in September. Things went badly. I needed a C-section. Husband, 29M, did not see daughter be born. Husband insists that he can't bond with daughter and wants a divorce so he can start over on his dream of having a close-knit family. Several people suggested asking him to come with me to a therapist so I can get help understanding why he's leaving. He agreed, and our appointment was yesterday. It didn't go badly, but it didn't go well either. He was very upfront with the therapist. He didn't try to mince words or refuse to answer questions. He told the man, paraphrasing, "They got to bond the entire pregnancy. That baby is made of their body. I can't compare to that. My work started at birth, and I wasn't there, so I don't feel like I ever got hired, if that makes sense." Yeah, he compared it to not having an employment contract. I get the metaphor, I guess, but I'm not sure how it translates to him not being able to bond. Several people made transphobic comments, and several other people asked if maybe my lack of gender was an issue. I assumed no, because husband had known that I'm non-binary since before we started dating, but I did bring it up while we were with the therapist. Husband insists that no, it has nothing to do with anything. He didn't care about what I am, but how I did. The therapist was very focused on trying to help me understand, and I appreciate that. No complaints with him. I'm still completely in the dark, though, and husband has started talking about choosing a lawyer. He says he wants a clean break before daughter gets too attached. TLDR 2. Situation is still fucked. I'm leaning towards letting him just go and focusing on me plus daughter. Update 2. Feb. 25, 2024. This is probably going to be long, and it isn't a happy update. My other posts can be seen in my post history, but the short of it is that I, 30NB, gave birth to my daughter in September. My STBX husband, 29M, did not see her birth. Things went very badly, and I needed emergency intervention. He was not in the room for the C-section. About a month and a half ago, he informed me that he cannot bond with her because he did not see her be born, and he wants to divorce so he can start over on his dreams of a close-knit family. We have filed. I have taken daughter and moved back in with my parents, who aren't very happy about the divorce but are thrilled to have the chance to nanny daughter, their words not mine. Life was in stasis for about a week after my last post until FIL asked us to come over for dinner. He informed me that STBX had asked for his help paying for a lawyer. He had agreed with the requirement that we all sit down and have one last talk about the situation. He opened with saying that he thinks that getting this over with would be best for me and daughter. STBX looked a little hurt at this, so he's willing to help, but he wanted to take one last shot at fixing it. The one last shot ended up being several hours of talking. FIL bluntly demanded that STBX explain his reasoning. STBX repeated the can't bond thing. FIL asked why. The employment contract analogy was brought up again. After much back forth, what do you mean by this? Why that? FIL just said, I'm not buying this. What's the real reason, STBX? STBX insisted till the end that what he'd been saying all along was his reasoning. He did not see daughter be born, so he can't bond. He tried, he insisted. The connection isn't there. He was supposed to connect when daughter was born. There was supposed to be a spark of connection between them. But that spark can only happen right at birth, I guess. In his mind, he can't get it now. FIL asked if STBX thought daughter wasn't his. STBX insists he has no doubts he is daughter's biological father. FIL asked if STBX was seeing someone else. Was there a woman or another pregnancy somewhere? STBX did not react well to this. He threw his phone down on the table and said that we were free to search it. He's not a scumbag. After that, the conversation turned to post-divorce life. STBX offered up that he'd been running the numbers and would volunteer 50-month alimony and 50-month in child support. He doesn't have to do either, mind, because we're divorcing and he wants to cut all ties with the kid, but he wants to be fair. $50 in alimony? Whatever, I have a job and a roof over our heads, I don't need it. $50 in child support? That is a lot less whatever. But I'm refusing to stress about it. The court will handle CS amounts. I'm making myself not be angry and let them deal with it. I admit I tuned out most of the rest of FIL's attempt to talk sense into his son after that comment. I think that was when the coffin finally nailed itself shut. I started packing when we got home and went to my parents' house the next day. I'm no longer talking to STBX, his lawyer talks to mine. We haven't spoken in almost 3 weeks. I don't think I need to tell you that he hasn't shown any concern for daughter, but here I am anyway. The day after I got there, my sister kidnapped me to her place. We got very drunk. Daughter was with parents, not us. Talked about everything, and I screamed a lot. I got most of it out of my system. After that, we had more drinks and watched terrible horror movies. I woke up the next day with a headache from hell, but otherwise feeling better than I had in a long time. My job can't transfer me, just my luck. But I've been promised a glowing reference, and I'm cashing out what little paid leave I have left to add to my savings. Phil asked after the failed conversation if I would be cutting him off. I assured him that he might not see us as much because of how far away my parents live and not knowing where I'll end up. But he's not getting rid of me or daughter that easily. He was very happy to hear that. So that's where I am. Papers have been filed. Daughter and I have moved out of the house. I'm doing my best to ignore STBX's existence. Thank you all again for listening to me cry and complain over the past couple months. Update 3, Sep. 23, 2024. I promised an update once things were over, and at this point they're mostly over. So here I am. My story can be seen in my post history, but the short of it is that my 31NB ex-husband, 29M, did not see my daughter's birth and decided that because he wasn't there, he couldn't bond. So he and I are divorcing and he's going to start over. Daughter turned 1 this month. She landed on nod as her first word. I suspect this is because FIL brought home a foster-to-adopt dog a few months back, whose previous owners called her Nod or Nodder. Daughter loves the heck out of this dog, you guys. FIL sends me pictures of her every day to show to daughter. Ex-husband and I are just waiting on some final paperwork for the divorce to be complete. He has not contested anything. He did look the judge in the face and repeat the whole didn't see birth can't bond thing. His lawyer did try and defend that claim. He presented studies that he claimed said things about damages to bonds when fathers weren't present and actively involved for everything, but ex-husband was. He was there and active and involved my entire pregnancy and was present for my entire labor until things went wrong. It wasn't a case of, ooh, hey, you knocked someone up 5 years ago, now bond with this kid. Daughter was definitely less than an hour old when he held her for the first time, probably less than half an hour. And I had proof for this claim too. Among other things, I had pictures of the two of us at multiple prenatal appointments. FIL was also willing to file a statement talking about how X and he were involved in my pregnancy. Needless to say, the judge was not impressed with my ex's lawyer's arguments. He tried to push my ex for therapy, made comments about how ex would regret this later. Ex stood stubborn with his "I need to start over" line. He has visitation per the paperwork. Care to guess if he's used it? He does also have to pay child support. If you've read my post history, you might remember that he offered me a gigantic $50 a month. That's all he's been paying, despite the judge ordering a lot more, so that's a fight I'm going to have to steel myself for. I'm surprised he started scanting out before the divorce was even final, but he did tell me in a fill that he's not a scumbag, so in his mind he's probably just keeping true to his word or something. He's shown no interest in daughter. No other children, pregnancies, or potential partners have popped up either. As best FIL can tell, X is single and not showing any interest in dating yet. I don't know how I feel, really. It would make more sense if he was cheating. It would be easier to have something solid to point to, go fuck you into a tornado for making my life fall apart, and then try to move on. But all lived evidence points to him honestly thinking he has to do this. I'm in therapy. I found a place about middle of my parents and FIL, and I'm still doing freelance work. I would rate myself okay. Daughter is happy, healthy, and kicking off. She will be fine. I plan to never speak to X again once this paperwork is done. I just have to wait to be able to totally start over myself. Story 2. Checking in 1.5 years later, Ada for jumping out of the way when my niece and nephew tried to push me into a pool, resulting in them falling in. OOP reluctantly goes to a family BBQ. OOP's nephews and nieces push people into the pool and eventually try with OOP. OOP sees this coming from a mile away and steps out of the way, and the kids fall in, along with the phone they were holding to record. OOP's sisters got pissed for almost letting their kids drown, and because the phone is now at the bottom of the pool. They insist that OOP should have let the kids push him into the pool, and OOP needs to apologize. OOP is voted NTA. Update post, August 17, 2023, almost 1 month later. TLDR? OOP spends the first part of this post explaining that the kids were fully capable of swimming and that the party ended on a sour note. Turns out, drunk Bill, who face-planted, had to get stitches. Sisters and BLs texted mean shit to OOP, and he and his wife blocked them. Mom and Dad were pissed at the texts and made the sisters apologize and end this nonsense. OOP thought things were over, but instead gets a text from one BL saying OOP needs to reimburse them for the phone. OP refuses, sends a screenshot to his parents, and says he's going no contact with sisters. In what OOP says is an out-of-character move, Dad calls sisters and rips them a new one. Grandkids are no longer welcome at their place indefinitely, which messes up the free babysitting Mom provides. They are banned from the vacation house, and he tells them that OOP owns that vacation house, not the parents. Sisters freak out. Sisters and husbands come over unannounced to apologize a few days later. OOP and wife are out at dinner, so they leave a note. OOP decides no contact is the best option for now. Update 2 post, August 26, 2023, 9 days from previous post. Editor's note, wanted to include this first line. Well, it's been an interesting last few days. I thought the shit had hit the fan before, but it was more of a fart compared to what's happened this week. TLDR. OOP provides financial context here. OOP's sisters think parents are dripping in money when in fact they are not. Turns out oldest sis and her fam have been living beyond their means and are in need of a loan, which parents can't give. She's also been renting out the vacation house once a month or so for the last 3 years and has been keeping the money. Other sister was aware of this and possibly has rented it out previously as well. OOP's parents feel awful and let OOP know. They figure that the sisters will try to convince OOP to let them rent out the house. Turns out they're right. The sisters show up and practically force their way inside OOP's house to convince them to let them use the place. They also say, quoting from OOP here, "I've been a shitty brother and that I needed to step up and plan on paying for their kids' college tuition since that's what family does." OOP calls them out on their bullshit and there's a huge blow-up and the sisters leave. OOP is exhausted, frustrated, and drained. Update 3 post, September 12, 2023, 2.5 weeks from last update. TLDR. OOP's parents decide they're done managing the vacation home, keeping track of who was using it, routine maintenance, etc., because sisters keep pressuring them to use it. OOP feels bad for his parents because he wanted them to be able to use it regularly, and now dynamics have changed, but he gets it. OOP locks the gate with a heavy-duty chain and lock, resets all keypads and creates new codes, gets security cameras, and has signs put up saying the area is monitored by video. OOP gets a call from both husbands trying to convince him to let them use the house like they always have. Oldest Bill tried to go up with some friends but couldn't get in. He threatens on the phone to basically break in and acts completely entitled. Other BL sounds like he is being made to call by sister. OOP obviously says no and considers selling the home. He also has no plans to initiate contact with sisters, and they are not talking with him. Update Post 4, October 16, 2023, 1 month later. TLDR, OOP hires a guy to look after the vacation home. Parents are continually pressured by sisters to tell OOP to open up the vacation home for Thanksgiving. They refused and instead said they would organize a gathering at an Airbnb if everyone split the cost, otherwise they would host at their place. This causes an argument because middle sister is for the Airbnb, oldest sister doesn't have any money. So Thanksgiving will be at parents' house, but OOP and wife won't be there. Parents ask OOP to not sell for now, as they would like to still use the place, but won't until sisters have come to terms with the new normal. Wife and OOP have stayed no contact with sisters, but they have called and left messages. OOP says, "F you Google Voice," demanding OOP meets with them and work out how everyone can use the family vacation home. OOP doesn't respond. OOP also does not plan to turn the vacation home into an Airbnb. This part is directly from the Post. My parents tell me that the oldest sister and her husband are getting out of the leases for their SUV and big-ass truck and are selling their jet skis and some other shit they've never needed. That's going to be really hard on her. She's quite the braggart and won't like being seen in something older, smaller, cheaper. My Bill's identity is very much wrapped up with his truck as well. He even has a small tattoo of the truck company's logo, which frankly is one of the many reasons why he and I never hung out. Update Post 5, November 27, 2023, 1.5 months later. Title, Update #5, crap. TLDR, used OOP's short version. Things have gone to hell. I really truly did not think anything like this would happen. Short version. My brothers-in-law broke into my vacation home and were arrested. They've been charged with breaking and entering, destruction of property, and communicating threats, all Class 1 misdemeanors. I've refused to drop the charges. I might do so if I'm fully paid for the damage they caused. They were still in jail as of Saturday evening. I assume they're out by now. Editor's note. My TLDR of the next part of the post. Bills went to the vacation home and cut through the chain damaged the gate. They messed up the front door trying to get in, ended up getting through another door, and then broke into the barn. David, the guy OOP hired to manage the home, called the cops. Cops didn't buy BL's excuses that they were allowed, and OOP was unreachable at the moment due to spending the day with his wife's family and leaving the phones in the car. BLs were booked at the sheriff's office. Sisters freaked out, but OOP had them blocked. Older sister couldn't afford bail because their cards were maxed out, so middle sis would have to pay for everything. OOP and his wife checked their phones late on Friday on their way home and found that Mom and Dad, Sheriff's Department, and David had all called. OOP called David when he got home and found out the extent of the damage. He ended Friday calling the Sheriff's Department and telling them it wasn't a misunderstanding and that BLs did not have his permission to be there. From OOP's post, I waited until Saturday afternoon to call my folks. They were both pretty rattled about it all, my mom in particular. My sisters had browbeat them into telling me I should tell the cops it was all a mistake and that I wanted the charges dropped. I refused flat out, told them there was no way I'd do that until I spoke with an attorney and also not until I was paid in full for whatever it will cost to fix everything 100%. My mom was crying hard by the time we got off the phone, which of course made me feel like shit. My dad suggested it was time for a complete start over, but also said he thought they needed to pay for the damage. I haven't gone up to the property yet. There's nothing I can do, and I'll probably go nuts when I see the damage in person. The photos are bad enough. I'm hoping to tomorrow or Wednesday, but my job isn't one I can just wander off from for non-emergencies. I've left messages with 2 attorney friends asking them to recommend the right lawyer is to go after my sisters and bills. I don't know what I can do exactly, but I'm hoping to get restraining orders. I have all the texts they've sent me that might help. I'm strongly considering suing them for the money they made renting the place. I don't care about the cash, but it will help make them as miserable as possible. The gloves are definitely off at this point. A couple of side notes. BLs had no idea I'd hired someone to keep an eye on things, or that there are cameras there now. My parents knew, but hadn't told them because they knew it would just give my sisters a reason to drama up. There are signs on the property stating it's being monitored with cameras and no trespassing signs, though. My wife has completely had it at this point. I don't blame her. She's been more than patient about it all, but she reached her limit and was not shy about letting me know. She told me it's up to me how I deal with this, but that she thought they all needed to be taught a hard lesson. Older Bill likely won't face any repercussions at his job over this, but Middle Bill has a security clearance, so he might. I'm hoping that will be motivation for Middle Bill to pay for the damages himself immediately. David, the caretaker, has an interesting background. I knew he was friends with some of the deputies, figured it was because they were all locals. I was wrong. He was a cop in a big city for years, was shot on duty, and afterwards decided to quit and move to where his parents had retired. He has some PTSD over it all. His dog is a certified service animal and is usually with him. I know law enforcement people tend to hang together. I guess that's how they became his friend group. I don't want to see or speak with these a-holes for the rest of my life. I know this is in direct conflict with my overwhelming urge to make their lives as miserable as possible. Update Post 6, December 2nd, 2023, 5 days later. Didn't think I'd be doing another post this soon, but a lot has happened over the past 2 days. Short version. I think the corner has been turned on this crap. Thursday afternoon, I got a courier-delivered envelope at my office. In it was a signed letter from both my brothers-in-law and a cashier's check for $5,000. In the letter they made what I have to say was a really sincere apology. Among other things, they acknowledged breaking in, acknowledged it was wrong, said the $5,000 was to pay for the damage, and that they'd pay more if it cost more than that. Also said they'd stay away from the vacation home unless my wife and I specifically invited them. They also asked that I do what could to get the charges dropped as soon as possible because they both could lose their jobs, and that they'd agree to a restraining order or whatever else it took for that to happen. There was more as well, all conciliatory, but that's the gist of it. To say this was a shock is an understatement. It was, obviously, a total 180 from their past behavior. I'd already made an appointment with an attorney to see about suing my BILs over the damage and to try to get a restraining order. I called him and told him what I'd just received, and he agreed to meet with me at the end of the day instead of next week. Told me not to deposit the check. We met for about 2 hours. He ended up recommending the wife and I do a settlement and mutual release agreement with all 4 of them, sisters and BILs. He said if we went after them via a lawsuit that we'd almost certainly win, but that it could take 2 years or more, there would be sizable upfront legal fees, and that we might never see any money. He also said we could keep the $5,000 free and clear even if we didn't let them off the hook. He's drawing up the agreement. It won't be ready until Monday. The agreement will include what's essentially the civil equivalent of a restraining order. I'd already asked my property manager to work up a bid to get the damage repaired. I called him after the meeting and asked that he get me as close an estimate as possible ASAP. Got that Friday he thinks it will take around $4,000 to fix everything. Most of that is for the front door. On Friday, my attorney contacted each of the BLs, told them what we were proposing, and advised them to get their own lawyers. They both agreed to it. The middle BL told him they could afford to either pay for the damages or pay for a lawyer, but not both, and they figured a lawyer wouldn't make any difference given that they really had no defense for what they did. His biggest concern was if the charges could be dropped. From what I can tell, they're willing to do anything, sign anything to make this all go away. My attorney also called the DA's office on Friday to discuss dismissing the charges, got the name of the prosecutor, and left them a message, but has not spoken to them yet. He thinks they'll dismiss the charges because the BILs are paying up, and they have no priors, but then again he's not a criminal lawyer. Also said I should be prepared to drive up there Monday or Tuesday and tell the prosecutor in person that I want everything dismissed. He's also advised me to continue to be no contact with sisters and BLs, especially for the next 6 months, and that it will be really important to follow the terms of the agreement when it comes to future interactions with them. I'm guessing that the BL's change of heart is due to them having figured out what's at stake for them, what it's going to cost them in legal fees and fines and so on. There's also the highly unlikely possibility that they could go to jail for up to 120 days, and as I've mentioned, one of them has a security clearance for his job that could be at risk. So this is their Hail Mary pass to keep their normal lives. This isn't a perfect resolution to the situation, but at least it will get me past the legal and financial parts of the shit show that I've been in for the past few months. I doubt I'll ever have a civil relationship with any of them ever again, and that's fine. What I want most at this point is to close this off, get on with my life, and never speak to any of them again. I'm exhausted from this. Wife feels pretty much the same way. Kind of a side issue, but getting the written apology was, weirdly, a huge moment for me. I wasn't expecting that ever, but apparently it matters to me quite a bit. The money doesn't feel particularly important at this moment. I'll damn sure take it, though. Also, I'm pretty certain my middle sister and her husband came up with the money. The cashier's check is from the credit union of the company he works for. Once things are signed, I plan to make one more update, probably just an edit to this post. I'm sorry for being so pedantic. Writing these posts has helped clear my head, and the feedback has really helped. I truly appreciate everyone's comments, insights, and support. And I really hope none of you ever have to go this kind of nonsense. Update Post 7, December 7th, 2023, 5 days later. Tuesday morning, I met with my attorney, went over the agreement, changed a couple of minor things, and he sent it to my sisters and brothers-in-law. It included a requirement that they pay my attorney's fee, about $3,000. They weren't happy about that and tried to negotiate it away, but he told them they either accept it as is or there would be no deal at all, and we'd proceed with suing them for the money they got from renting out the place, wear and tear from renting it, repair costs from their break-in, emotional distress, lost income from having to deal with this, attorney fees, and whatever else we could. He also told them I would push hard with the DA's office to prosecute every charge. Short version, they came in and signed. I wasn't there. I'm told it was a pretty tense environment, that the middle BL appeared to have taken charge, and that at one point he told both of my sisters to shut the hell up, or he was walking away from the whole thing, making his own deal with us, and the rest of them could all go to hell. They provided another cashier's check for $2,500, claimed that's all they had. It's close enough that we're going to accept it as the final payment. Attorney also told me that everyone was very cold and curt towards one another, but that they all managed to keep it together long enough to sign and left without making too big of a scene. I drove up to the vacation house early yesterday to check out the damage and meet with the DA's office. Seeing the damage made my blood boil. It was so senseless. I was so pissed that I was ready to eat the cost of repairs and do everything I could to ruin their lives. Tried walking it off, failed utterly, ended up calling a good friend who was kind enough to stay on the phone for over an hour, letting me spew and vent. He eventually got me back to focusing on the bigger picture of putting this behind me and getting on with my life. Honestly, I'm still not sure that's what I want to do, but I settled down enough to get some food in me and I felt better. After lunch, I went to DA's office. Hadn't made an appointment and had to wait a while, but got to meet with the assistant DA who's got the case. Short version is that since I don't want to prosecute and the BLs have already paid for the damages, that they are willing to drop all the charges except trespassing, which in this case will be a Class 2 misdemeanor. The BLs will have to plead guilty and pay whatever fine the judge sets. I'm also told that if they fight the trespassing charge, or ever so much as fart in public up there, that it would go very poorly for them. It helped that the BLs didn't resist arrest. If they had none of the charges would have been dropped. I also went by the sheriff's office to thank them for getting there so quickly and everything. Wanted to thank the deputies personally, but only spoke to the dispatch person. And I tried to meet up with David, the property manager, but couldn't get hold of him. A couple of notes. The agreement includes a no-contact clause. Basically, if any of them show up where my wife or I are, or the other way around, whoever got there last has to leave immediately. No contact except through attorneys or other mutually agreed-upon third parties. They get to keep whatever they made from renting the vacation house, my big give, unless I have tax consequences which they will be responsible for. And we release each other from all other liabilities up through the present. There's more to it than that, but those are the high points. Wife and I will sign the agreement later today. After that, I can't talk about most of this, but I can talk around it. I think this is my final update regarding all this nonsense, but I'll respond to comments if I can. As I've said before, posting about all of this and reading folks' thoughts and responses has been really helpful and has probably been key in my being able to handle this in a relatively healthy way. So thank you all again. Update Post 8. March 16th, 2024. 3.5 months later, 8 months from OG Post. Title: March 2024. Oldest sister and BL have filed for bankruptcy. Thought it would be worth an update for anyone who's interested. Unsurprisingly, my oldest sister and brother-in-law have filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. While I don't care about what happens to them financially or otherwise, they've also managed to drag my parents into their mess, which I'm not happy about. At the start of the year, my BL's oversized, customized Pride and Joy truck was repossessed. Pretty embarrassing for him, I'm sure. Happened at work. This was their breaking point. Without the truck they have to share, a Kia my parents loaned them, and they can barely fit in it with their 3 kids. Financially, they're FD. They owe at least $125K, probably more, on high-interest credit cards. They have 0 equity in their house, and have a couple of personal loans that I'm pretty certain they got under false pretenses. They have loans on their jet skis, ATVs, and trailers. They also owe a chunk of money from defaulting on the truck lease. They hadn't made any payments on their credit cards or loans in months and were behind on their house payments as well. They got out of the lease on my sister's massive SUV late last year. They were upside down on it as well, so had to come up with cash to do so. They also had to pay an attorney, the fine and court costs for my BL's trespassing charge at the vacation house. And they owe my middle sister and her husband money for bail and their portion of the damages to the place. As I've mentioned before, my folks have never been financial wizards, but they have at least been generally responsible. They're retired, their home is paid off, and they live off of Social Security and pensions. Altogether, they get more than they spend. Minimal savings, just an emergency fund. Turns out my folks emptied out that fund, cashed out their small IRA, $20K, and gave it to my sister. That let her catch up on the house payment and cover the negative equity on her car lease. But now literally every bit of savings my parents possessed is gone. Plus, my parents have been paying for their groceries for several months and continue to pay the insurance on the car they loaned my sister. According to my dad, my sisters worked my mom for weeks to get her to fork over the money. They'd worked on both my folks at the same time for a while, but my dad flat out refused every time. Eventually, Mom caved. She was worried that my sister would have to move to a hovel in some backwater town and that the kids would be barefoot and eating dirt. Dad's not happy about it, and to say there's some tension between them right now is an understatement. But they'll be fine. I was pretty disappointed when my parents told me all this, but I wasn't surprised. It sucks that they emptied out their savings to help, but I kind of get it. The way the bankruptcy laws are in our state, by getting caught up on the home loan, my sister should be able to keep the house. I tried hard not to say how I felt about this, and my sisters mostly succeeded. Really, I'm way more pissed about this than I should be. The worst part for me is that my sister and BIL could now contact me and my wife without any real fear of repercussions. The only penalty the no-contact agreement has is that if they violate it, we can go after them for the money they made from renting out the vacation house and related damages. Since they've filed for bankruptcy, that's now not an impediment for them. I'm hoping they'll leave us alone, but who knows? Folks also told me that my middle sister and her husband have hit a rough spot and that he's not currently living with her and the kids. Just a guess, but I imagine he's had it with the whole family dynamic that caused this nonsense. Not directly related, but on a brighter note, I've spent 2 weekends at the mountain house since the start of the year, once with my wife and once alone. Both times there was a lot of snow. It was incredibly beautiful and relaxing. Very therapeutic. The place also has good internet service now, thanks Starlink, which is nice. Plus knowing that I can count on David, the property manager, to keep the place in shape, ready for us to visit and to help if we get snowed in, eliminates most of the stress in owning it. My folks have used it a few times as well and get along great with David. Relevant comments. Could you get a restraining order? If they start up again, I do indeed plan to get a restraining order. In fact, my wife made it clear to me she expects a very hard approach to any BS from them going forward, which I agree with, of course. I had the security cameras at our house upgraded at the start of the year just in case they come by. I also kept all their previous texts and provided screenshots to my attorney for safekeeping. If they cause any trouble at the vacation house, they're toast. The sheriff's department and DA's office have the full story and are sympathetic to our situation. $125,000 on credit cards? $125K is my estimate based on my sister telling my parents they were racking up at least $3,000 per month just in credit card interest. She thought it might be more. Their credit was already crap before the bankruptcy, so I'm guessing they might be paying as high as 28% interest. If so, they'd owe about $125K. If they're paying a lower interest rate, the principal would be higher. But yeah, it's an absurd amount. And that $3,000 doesn't include all the other interest they're paying. And of course there's the principal that just sits there. On the other hand, I'm told they had a great time going to Disney World for a week. So there's that. Middle bill. Younger BL seems to be more decent than I've given him credit for in the past. I'll admit to a bit of myopia. For years I've seen the four of them and their kids as just one mass of inconvenient people I have nothing in common with but can't avoid. But he seems to have hit his limit and made some changes. Hope it works out for him, and that he pulls my sister in the right direction. How sisters got so entitled. My sisters and I weren't raised to be like they are. When I was young, they weren't any more self-entitled than any other teenagers. We all worked crappy teenage jobs, didn't get spoiled. It was really a very standard suburban upbringing. We weren't super close, but we weren't enemies. Somewhere along the line, after going off to college, they changed for the worse. I guess it could be worse. They could have become drug addicts or militant vegan volcano worshippers or whatever. But they sure became people I don't want to be around. And yes, the pool incident was the spark for the meltdown, but the fuel had been accumulating for years. It would have come out at some point that she was renting the house out on the sly, and things would have gone to hell then, just like they did now. Update Post 9, July 12, 2024, 4 months later, almost 1 year from OG Post. There's been a fair number of requests for an update, and considering it's coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the pool incident, I thought I'd post one. My folks worked through Mom giving my oldest sister her IRA and their emergency fund. Altogether, Mom gave her $45K. According to Dad, once Mom realized how much she'd been manipulated, she got as mad and upset as he'd ever seen her. I think she had a moment of clarity. She and Dad ended up calling my sisters on a 3-way call, and according to Dad, it went south pretty quickly. Sisters were gaslighting them. Mom lost her cool and ended up ripping into them hard. There were lots of tears, and eventually both sisters hung up. Mom really just wanted both sisters to acknowledge that they'd put her and Dad in a risky financial situation. Typical blow-up, I guess, but not the kind of thing that happens in our family. The next morning, my dad called my older sister and told her he'd be picking up the car they'd loaned her. She tried to argue, but he told her it wasn't up for discussion. He got a neighbor friend to take him to her house as soon as he hung up and drove it home without talking to her. Sister called and went off on him, said lots of nasty stuff, which of course hurt him. But at least they have the car back. Dad also told me something that left me dumbfounded. For the last 17 years, they were giving both sisters a grocery allowance that was up to $500 per month. What the effing F? I thought I had a pretty good handle on where their money was going, but clearly I was wrong. This started back when I was going to grad school and living at home. My sisters asked for the money because they thought it wasn't fair that I was living at home rent-free, and then it just never ended. In any case, my parents cut them off. Unsurprisingly, my sisters weren't happy about it. Who the hell gets an allowance from their parents when they're in their 40s? Because of all this, my folks and sisters quit talking for a while. Don't know if they've resolved everything, but they appear to be on speaking terms again, though my folks aren't having them or the kids over. I'm in don't ask mode. It's their business. My folks are using the vacation home fairly regularly. Currently, they're there for a 2-week stay and will probably make it 3. Unfortunately, my wife and I haven't spent any time there lately, other than me having made a couple of day trips to check on it and drop off some supplies. The property manager I hired, David, is still taking good care of the place. Side note: middle sister told my mom that the oldest sister had been making over $6,000 per month renting the house out and that it had been going on for nearly 3 years. Pretty certain she didn't declare the income, so that's like grossing $8K, $9K per month. I will forever find that galling. Oldest sister and BIL still have their house. My attorney checked up on their bankruptcy case. The court converted it from Chapter 7 to Chapter 13, which I believe means they have to pay back a lot more of their debts. Middle sister and her husband are still separated. I don't know if my middle BL has had any issues with his security clearance because of breaking into the house. I do know he's still with the same big defense company. At my parents' request, I've been working on putting their house into a trust. They want me to manage their affairs as they get older and keep the house safe from my sisters. I'm working with an attorney, but it's not done yet. Folks have asked me to be the trustee and have also given me full power of attorney. The best part about the last few months is that my sisters, BLs, have left us alone and have stayed away from the vacation home. Wife and I are really happy to be back to our normal lives. Hope everyone else's lives are going great. Update post 10, December 14th, 2024. 5 months later, 1 year and 5 months from OG post. December 14th, 2024. Some folks have asked for an update. Here you go. In August, my attorney let me know he'd received a letter for me from my middle brother-in-law. This was the first contact from any of my sisters or their husbands since they'd been arrested. It was a long letter, had a sincere apology, and a lot of information he thought I should know. Biggest thing was that he and my sister are divorced, not separated. He moved out and filed for divorce right after we made the settlement agreement. He and my middle sister kept it quiet until it was done. Their house sold in June and she's moved to an apartment. He told me that his being arrested last year, along with my other BL, for breaking into the vacation house could have cost him his job and killed his career, and that it was a huge moment of clarity. He said that the dynamic between the 4 of them, my sisters, him and my oldest sister's husband, had become totally toxic, that they are all borderline alcoholics or worse, and that he had to get away from that environment. He no longer speaks to my oldest sister or her husband. He also asked if he, my dad, and I could meet and have an extended conversation, as there were things he needed to talk about in person. Frankly, I was unenthused, but my wife thought it was worth doing. I asked my dad if he was interested. He was, so I relayed a response to now ex-Bill through my attorney, and we met over lunch. We talked for over 2 hours. It was pretty exhausting. Ex-Bill looked better than I'd seen him in, well, forever. He's quit drinking, is in therapy, has lost a lot of weight, and looked fit. He was apologetic about all the BS he'd been involved in, and apologized to my dad for hiding the divorce. Told us therapy is really helping him. Asked me if the $5K he'd sent covered all the damage to the vacation house. I told him it had. And thanked me for talking to the county prosecutor. Said he is strongly considering transferring to a new project that would have him living overseas for the next few years. That he really needed to reset his life, but he was trying to balance his mental health against not being part of his kids' lives every day. Ex-Bill also hit us with what for me was quite the WTF. Apparently my sisters have hated me since before I was born, but have always hidden it from the rest of us. They liked things better when there were just the 2 of them. He said when they drank, which was whenever they were together, My sisters would often bitch about me being the favorite child, how my folks gave me more opportunities than they had, how my doing well was a result of that, and that I didn't deserve my success. None of that made any sense to me or my dad. All three of us went to the same public schools, had dumb part-time jobs, etc. My folks paid for 100% of their college. Not mine, I got a full scholarship. I was pretty shocked by this, but my dad was literally speechless. Dad eventually said he had no clue they felt that way as kids, and that he and Mom had never favored any of us. He's still having a hard time with this. Personally, I'm embarrassed that I was clueless about it all my life, but it does explain a lot. Ex-Bill warned us that my sisters and remaining Bill intended to put on a full-court press to alienate my folks from my wife and me. They also planned to keep the grandkids away from my folks to pressure them. He said that they're still 1,000% convinced that my folks are sitting on a ton of money. They want some of it ASAP and are sure I'd stop my folks from giving them anything. That got a laugh out of my dad because he and Mom simply don't have any real money. They do have their house, of course. Ex-Bill also told us that he and my middle sister had rented out the vacation house a total of 6 times over the years. He offered to pay me what they'd made. I declined and told him it was in the past. He also told us my older sister Bill had never declared the income from renting out the vacation house. He didn't want to get in trouble with the IRS. Both my dad and I spoke with Ex-Bill separately for a few minutes. Don't know what they talked about. I thanked him for his apology and for making things right financially. Also wished him well and told him I'd be willing to talk with him again down the road. Don't think that's going to happen. I probably could have been more forgiving, but I think he appreciated me not bullshitting him by acting like all this crap hasn't affected my wife and me. There was more, but it's less important, and this is too long as it is. After XBL left, I asked my dad if he, Mom, and I could sit down and talk about all this. I didn't mean immediately, but that's how he took it. He called Mom and let her know I was coming over, so I rolled with it. She was pretty hurt by my sister's plans to ruin her and Dad's relationship with me and my wife and to use the grandkids as pawns. She cried a lot and wanted to confront them immediately. Dad got her to put a pin in that for a while. Mom was also dumbfounded about me supposedly being the favorite child. She feels like they were actually more strict with me because I had a hard curfew and my sisters didn't. To be honest, I barely remember that. It was 25 years ago. A couple of side notes. Middle sister eventually told our folks she's divorced. She's currently living off child support and her half of the home sale. Supposedly, she's trying to find a job. My parents have gone low contact with both sisters. No idea how permanent that is, but Mom seems like she's completely had it with them for the foreseeable future. They're spending a lot of time at the vacation house. We're up there over a month at one point. Ex-Bill found my Reddit posts. He's not terribly happy about them, but feels they're more or less accurate, though obviously he found them slanted towards my point of view. He disagreed that he's boring, but said to be fair that he finds me boring as well. I can live with that. Our worlds don't have much overlap except my sister. We got the trust set up for my parents' house. I'm the trustee. All this has been emotionally draining for me. I decided it would be a good idea for me to see a therapist again. I've seen one in the past, mainly for stress-related issues. I've been doing so for a while, and it's definitely helpful. Therapist tells me my decision to stay no contact with my siblings is healthy for now, but also wants me to keep an open mind down the road. Merry Christmas to you all! Story 3. Just received an unsolicited spicy photo from employee followed by an apology. What next? I'm 32M, the general manager for a corporate franchise breakfast restaurant. It's basically only me and management in-house. I have 2 kitchen managers, but they are more lead cooks than anything. I do all the scheduling, hiring, firing, disciplinary stuff, etc. It is corporate-owned, so I have a regional director, and there is an HR department at the head office. One of my kitchen employees, 40s F, just sent me a picture of her boobies, followed by an apology and saying she won't be coming in tomorrow. What do I do from here? I'm thinking, obviously, I call HR Monday morning and report this through them. What do I do beyond that? How do I protect myself fully in this situation? Relevant comment? Hennessy_Carter. It may have been a genuine accident. I've sent people messages meant for others on accident before. These things happen. I would report it to HR immediately, but you do need to ascertain whether it was an accident or not. OOP. Almost certainly an accident, yeah. No sort of inclination of interest otherwise, and she seemed embarrassed into calling out for tomorrow. I don't see the play otherwise. OOP responds to some ideas of keeping personal and work message apps separately. OP. You bring up a very valid point, and you may have just solved 2 issues for me. I have a hard time leaving my employees' text messages on read. I tell them I'm always easy to reach and prefer text because my service gets choppy sometimes, and I can filter how urgent it is. But it does get draining being accosted on my days off all the time. A separate messaging service could solve both these issues. Keep the work messages separate, and not feel so bad about waiting till I'm back at the office to answer non-urgent stuff, and avoid this kind of mix-up on the future. There is no accidental nudes in the work messaging app excuse. Update, December 19th, 2024, 5 days later. Hello, fellow managers. I made a post a few days ago asking for advice about having received a picture from an employee of her topless, followed by an apology. I got a lot of great responses, most people saying what I was thinking, cover yourself and report to HR. A lot of people suggesting I let it go and do nothing, besides let the employee know I knew it was an accident and deleted. And then a handful of people who didn't understand why anyone would report that, saying I was a bad person for even thinking it, and a bunch of questions and comments about the boobs themselves, asking to see them if they were nice, etc. etc., pretty much par for the course on the internets. I felt like I should update you guys. I ended up emailing HR the next morning, letting them know what happened and asking for advice. This was a Sunday morning. I also sent a text to my HR rep letting them know I had sent them an email. HR got back to me soon after. The gist of the email they sent me was, you should meet with the employee in question, with a witness, and let them know of the possible consequences of their actions. Tell them about the risks of sending pictures like that out onto the internet. Remind them that they last forever, and that once they are out there, they have no choice over what happens to those pictures, as well as the possible repercussions to the person receiving them, if someone else like a partner or a boss sees those pictures in someone's device. Let them know you are putting a disciplinary notice in their file, to iterate the severity of their action, and let them know that there will be consequences if there is a recurrence in the future. In an effort to preserve the integrity of the employee to her colleagues, and in an attempt to alleviate some of the embarrassment of the situation, I didn't want to loop in one of the kitchen managers into the situation, besides the fact that they are both male. So I arranged for my HR rep to come down and meet her with me on the first shift back after her weekend. My HR rep is also female, which I feel like was more appropriate than to meet her with another man. I asked HR to meet me at a cafe across the street just to avoid any questions from staff or any chance of being overheard. There isn't a lot of space in my tiny office for 3 people, and I didn't want to sit in the dining room and chance being overheard or the employee feeling more embarrassed than needed. The employee was admittedly embarrassed, but was very receptive and appreciative of the way we handled it. She was convinced I was letting her go. We reiterated that we were not, just crossing the T's and dotting I's. I couldn't not report this, but I also didn't want to loop in anyone she has to work with. Hence HR being here. I showed her my phone, reassured her it was deleted right away, not shown to anyone, but that being corporate I had no choice but to have what happened on paper. She had no issues signing her warning. All in it was a good way to bury the hatchet and eliminate the awkwardness, and I feel much better knowing the situation is entirely above board. I think everyone sleeps better tonight because of the way it was handled. But let me tell you, lost a lot of sleep about it the last few nights. I imagine she must have as well. Thanks, everyone. Keep it classy. Relevant. Comment? OEUP explains how HR works in his workplace. UP. That's how HR works, bud. You don't just tell the staff, hey, you did this, warning you not to do it again, sign here. You have to walk them through the action, the policy they broke by committing it, the reason that policy is in place, the immediate repercussions of their action, the possible risks of said action, and the repercussions of recurrence. Example: If someone is late, you don't just tell them, "Hey, you were late, here is a piece of paper that says you were late. Sign it." Instead, you highlight the attendance policy they agreed to. Highlight the day and time of their breach of said policy, the impact that had on their teammates and the enterprise as a whole, the consequences of continuing this behavior, and a time and date to meet again to make sure the policy is being met. Commenter 1. I love the measures you took to prevent embarrassing her and to preserve the relationship. Commenter 2. I have to say, I think you handled this perfectly. I love how you took steps to make sure she was more comfortable and not embarrassed and met at another place to preserve her dignity. This is an example of exactly how these situations should be handled. Story 4. OOP, get pregnant at 16, gets harassed with CPS by her parents, then 10 years later is asked for forgiveness by them. Original post, October 7th, 2019. I am very sorry if this is convoluted and riddled with grammar and spelling mistakes. At 16, I slept with my good friend Jared. The condom broke and my daughter was created. My parents, who were great until this point, didn't like that and wanted me to get an abortion. I couldn't bring it over myself to. I wanted to keep the baby. Of course, my parents told me to pack my stuff and leave the house and their lives, so I did. I went to my friend's house and his parents took me in. They weren't thrilled, but they said that we all had to help as a new family member was in the making. In that time, my friend and I started to develop feelings for each other. I had my daughter, and about 2 months later, Jared's brother came back into their lives. He was a recovering heroin addict. As we had the baby, my mother-in-law told him he could not stay with us. Eventually, they let him stay more and more, and he was spending nights until he had a relapse and stole a bunch of stuff. My parents got wind of that. They dug up a bunch of stuff and found out that my MIL also fought addiction after an accident she had 15 years ago left her addicted to pain meds. So they called CPS on us, and a whole ass investigation was opened. It was a dark time. I thought they were going to take my baby. In the end, they didn't find anything substantial, but them calling CPS on me transformed into a tradition over the years. As it was a small town, every mistake I made got back to my parents. I was half an hour late to pick up due to my job. CPS charges because neglect. I was out after 10 p.m. with my toddler. This happened twice because we went to family gatherings. CPS. Christmas, loads of people stayed at Jared's house because it was a big family. CPS because many strange men were there. They eventually stopped it because they were fined for calling them on me unnecessarily. If they had done it more, I think it could have been an offense. The last call was 5 years ago. Eventually, Jared and I married when we were 23, and we are quite happy. We worked retail jobs and studied. It took us longer than average to graduate, but we did, with a lot of help of his parents. Jared is now an engineer, and I work as a graphic designer. We were able to afford a big flat and finally moved out of his parents' house. Our lives look normal now. Anyway, a week ago I get a call from my mother who told me my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer and that his ultimate wish is to see me and my daughter again. I don't really know what to do, because while they didn't have to take care of while I was pregnant, I wished they had at least supported me. And while I get that, they were panicking because they thought I was going to be an unfit mother. They made my life hell for 5 years. Relevant comment? OP on if her mother apologized for how they treated her. No. In the phone call, my mother mentioned that they regretted how they treated me. One thread killer. 1. What are your husband's thoughts on potentially reconciling and taking his child around them? You reconciling with your mother and father is your decision. However, they've directly put your child and family in jeopardy on multiple occasions. Definitely get your husband on board before committing anything about your child. You can go and reconcile with them alone if necessary. Personally, I'd have a hard time accepting them having any connection if I was the father. They did all that horrible crap knowing they would pass from this earth someday. It would take some monumental effort on their part, for me to trust them to meet my child, way more than a phone call, though that could be the start. I agree with other suggestions that you should definitely meet with them first without your child should you decide to attempt reconciliation. OOP, he is not a fan of the idea. He hates them for what they did to us, but he says that if I feel the need to do it, I should. Primero filho, do you even know if your father's sickness is true? I wouldn't blame if you decide to not forgive them. They disowned you and made your life hell. Even if you do forgive them, you need to take it slow letting them back in. Meet them without your daughter, in a neutral place first. Oh, I have no reason to doubt that. Why else would they want back in? I am definitely having a hard time to think about forgiveness. Peon. If her daughter would want to meet her parents, she hasn't really ever asked for parents because her grandparents give her more than enough love. Update post, November 11th, 2019, a little over a month later. Hey, it's me. I wanted to update you on what happened. After some thought, I decided to first meet my parents alone. I wanted to make a decision based on their remorse and development as human beings, and they sadly didn't really change. When I agreed to meet, I also told them it would be without my kid. IDK why, but they thought they were going to meet her. They had bought presents and all. They were very disappointed, to say it lightly, when I showed up without her. They made no deal to hide it, but we talked. They failed to take any real responsibility for their actions. Every apology began with, "We are sorry if you." When confronted about the CPS calls, they say they were doing what was best for daughter. I got really mad but tried not to snap. They brought up every mistake I did as a young mother, and that they just thought I was far too young and irresponsible to have a kid. That daughter only turned up good because of luck. After they said that I laid down money for my meal, stood up and said, "Well, nothing has changed. You are still the heartless persons that threw me out years ago and made my life hell for 5 years. You will never meet her. She is happy, and she has loving grandparents." They started to freak out, saying that I couldn't withhold their grandchild from them. I just said that you lay in the bed you make. I left and haven't talked to them since. Mails or letters from them are thrown out on the spot. I will eventually explain to my daughter what happened to me and my parents, and will give her the chance to meet them when she is older, but for now I don't want to deal with their BS. Edit guys, thank for your concerns, but I am non-US. Grandparent rights are not a thing where I come from. Edit 2. I think some of you are confused. I am not asking about advice of whether or not I should give in to my parents' request. That's what my last post was about. It's not unwillingness to reflect, it's a set decision. Also, yes, my daughter is in therapy due to her being traumatized by all that lovely CPS visit that were caused by my parents. So in fact, my child is happy and healthy mentally as well as physically. Edit, made at the beginning of the update. Apparently, I have to make this clear. This is just an update post. I have taken my decision. My parents will not meet my daughter until she is older and wants to. More relevant comments. OOP on. If her parents would try to pick up their child at school, no, that doesn't happen at her school. The law here is very strict, so the school wants to assure their ass is as good as possible. If they don't know you, you can't pick up the kid. If Simone besides us picks her up, I or my husband would need to write an email to the school the day prior or call in the morning, or else the kids can't leave. I had once an accident, and my friend went to pick up the kids, and they weren't let go till after I was called and received a picture of my friend. But thank you very much for the concern. Story 5. So it turns out it's not that my father, 36M, didn't want to have anything to do with me, 17F. He didn't even know about me in the first place. Original post, December 11th, 2017. The story I got told at 14 was that my dad wasn't my biological father. He was the man who married my mom after I was already born. And basically, my mom and dad thought at the time I deserved to know this, because a few people in our environment kept saying how I didn't look like him, and I was asking them if I was maybe adopted or something. Yeah, I know. Very little was spoken of the man my mom got pregnant with, but the basic gist of it was that he didn't care about mom being pregnant, didn't want a child in the first place, and then she didn't want anything to do with him any further, so she cut all contact. No child support because my mom's family is well off. I won't bullshit you and say I wasn't hurt, but I got over it quickly enough with the help of my mom and dad. Sadly, mom and dad got a divorce last year. Just felt like they didn't love each other that way anymore, I guess. They're still good friends with each other, though, no drama, for which I'm grateful. Still, this sort of prompted me into thinking about my biological father lately, and I ended looking him up online. Dunno what I expected to see, really, but he's just normal, I guess. I might have been thinking he'd have this kind of asshole look to him because of how he rejected me before I was even born. Anyway, one night after drinking more than I should with some friends on a night out, I did a stupid thing and sent him a message, basically accusing him how he's horrible, evil, and other less polite words because of how he abandoned me. Next morning, after I actually remembered what I did, I see his reply to me. It's polite, but confused, and he has no idea who I am or how I'm supposed to be related to him. I had my dad's last name, saying in the end that I probably got the wrong person and wishing me the best. I don't know. It just pissed me off, even though I was sober and a bit hungover. So I fired up several paragraphs to him about who exactly I am, who my mom is, and what he did to us. His reply came in the evening, and it was quite extensive, but I'll sum it up for you. They broke up with each other, on bad terms. After they were together for a little over a year, she never mentioned any pregnancy to him, and when he tried to contact her later afterwards, because he felt like shit. How it ended, she rebuffed him and blocked him, and that was the last time he tried getting in touch with her. Needless to say, me being pissed off at him was gone in a flash, and now my father was the one angry at my mom for doing this. I was wondering how to talk to my mom about what I found out, but I didn't have to bother, because my father contacted her first and confronted her about her hiding me from him. We're getting to know each other slowly, mostly over the internet, though we talked a few times over a video chat, because he doesn't live in the same country as us. It'll be time soon enough to meet IRL, and I'm nervous like hell. But by all accounts, and the way he's talked to me and held back on sharing me with the rest of his family, I think I'm going to like him a lot. Why the fuck did she do it? She says she has no idea why she really did this, blames it on pregnancy and stuff, but I don't see how the pregnancy could have influenced her for my whole life. I love her, but there's times when it's just the two of us, and I can't help but hating her for denying the both of us a chance to know each other as I grew up. I can tell my father has heard about this, though he doesn't talk about it directly. And my mom probably can guess how I feel, given that she just starts tearing up at times she sees I'm angry or being curt with her. I'm split in half, happy when I'm talking with my father, but mad like hell when I talk to my mom after. I want all this to get better, but at the same time, I want her to hurt. What do I do now? TL. Mom hid her pregnancy and my existence from my biological father. He only found out about me when I went off on a drunken rant about how he abandoned us. Now he's back and we're getting to know each other, like we should have years back. But I'm angry at my mom and worry that the anger won't go away. What the hell do I do? Relevant comment? Nono 1000XNO. I'd actually suggest you and your real father take a DNA test to verify things. And your mother knows why she chose what she chose. It was only 17 years ago. Your dad who raised you might know something too. Did you ask him? Opie. Sorry. I wrote this in one go. Completely forgot to put in his side of things. My dad had no clue either about what happened. He only came into our lives when I was around 4 years old, and he took what my mom said to him as the truth, and didn't know otherwise until I talked with him about it recently. And the test was already done. He's my father. Mom keeps saying she doesn't really know. Little Msriri. These kind of things can become sticky and tricky. I would sit your mom down and talk to her about this. Tell her what you know. Tell her you're angry, deservedly. And tell her that you don't want to be angry at her forever, but you don't know how to get past this. OP. I did talk with her, though I'll be the first one to admit it was less talk and more me just throwing out one question after another, with her not answering and crying. I just want to know why, and she's not telling me shit. I asked her if he was abusive to her, if he cheated, if he did anything to deserve something like this. But no, he apparently didn't do anything wrong. My father says they were just people that clicked poorly at times and didn't communicate well, so it kept escalating until it blew up in their faces. Then again, they were teenagers. Well, he was. My mom's older than him by a few years, so that's no surprise. OP on her parents' ages when she was conceived. She was 24 when she got pregnant. My dad will always be my dad. The fact that I found out the truth about my father doesn't negate the relationship we have or the fact that he raised me as his own. He'll always be my dad, even if I grow close to my biological father as I've grown close to my dad over the years. And he knows this. I made sure of it. I think you really have your math wrong. My father was 19 when my mom, who's 5 years older than him, got pregnant. Even if he was 17, which he wasn't, it wouldn't matter. Since I just checked, and the age of consent where we are is 14. Update January 16, 2018. 1 month later. I found out why she told me the lie that my biological father didn't want me. It's maddeningly simple and stupid. She was basically getting to know my dad, her now ex-husband, and he wanted to know about my father's involvement in our lives. Put on the spot, she made out this ridiculous story about how he didn't really care for having a child. They didn't keep in touch, and over the years it evolved into a fucking theater play, which is what I got years down the line when I asked about my father. My dad, I guess, didn't want to put salt on wounds, so he just avoided that subject in the future until I asked about it. That's it. That's the whole reason why I didn't know my father for my whole life up until recently. No, really. Because she didn't want to look like some spiteful, crazy woman who neglected to tell someone they're a father, she made this up, which is some bitter irony for her because she does look like a crazy and spiteful woman with the lies she told about my father. I am so mad at her. I can still barely control my anger around her. All I want to do is hurt her until she feels really hurt like I was when I found I missed out on knowing my father all along and him getting to know me as well. I restrain myself more often than not, but goddamn, this isn't something that's going to be just pushed to the side. I don't know what we'll do, and I know that sometime in the future I'll probably re-establish having a good relationship with my mother. But right now, it's just not happening. But on the brighter side of things, I met my father. Some people mentioned in the last thread that I should be careful how, when, and where I met him. Someone thought I would be flying out of our country to meet him, I think. But given how everyone that knew him back then and now had nothing but good to say about him, I connected with my father's side of the family, have plenty of cousins, aunts, uncles, and so on to talk with and meet, and it's a bit overwhelming just how many of them are there, and how overjoyed they were to find about me. I gave him a few dates when we could meet, and he picked this last weekend. He flew back on the Friday, visited his parents, my grandparents, and man, that's so weird how I have another set of grandparents to the whole mix. And then we met up. I really don't know what I was expecting. I mean, yes, we talked, and he seemed very understanding and kind and good and so very interested in meeting me, but I guess there was just that fucked up fear of him not liking what he actually saw and leaving. No, really, thanks for this shit, Mom. It didn't matter in the least. As soon as we met, there was just this moment. I don't know how to describe it. I don't really think I ever had anything like that before. And he just hugged me and I could feel him shaking. I think he was holding himself back from crying. And I started crying for no real reason. And then we talked and just spent the rest of the day together. We pretty much spent the whole weekend together. From the moment I got up, we talked. And by the time he was boarding his flight, I didn't want him to leave ever again. And he won't, not really. He wanted to know everything about me. And I literally mean everything. And I guess what really made me actually love him is him asking to meet my dad, asking me if that was okay with me, and then thanking him for his part in raising me. They talked some more with each other while I was busy with something else, and I think they became sort of friends. I don't really know what to call their relationship. So to all of you who helped me deal with my fucked up situation, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Even if it seemed like I was just venting out loud on the internet, thank you. Thank you all. Except those 1 or 2 people who thought my father is a rapist and an abuser. Seriously, Wolf, tell that daughter. Mom told me the reason behind her lies, so she wouldn't look bad when she was dating my dad and when they got serious. Still mad like hell, but eventually I think I'll get past it. Met my father in person, had a great time, got to know about a ton of family, and best of all, both him and my dad seemed to get along. Thank you everyone for your support and help. Story 6. I moved into my BF's house and I haven't been able to sleep well for 3 weeks because he doesn't let me. I had a breakdown last night and broke a lamp. I'm going to stay in a hotel tonight. Ida, original post. December 20th, 2024. I moved into my BF's house he owns 3 weeks ago, and it's been really hard. We have been fighting a lot. Many of our fights are because he doesn't let me sleep. I work 9-5, so I have to wake up at 8-ish. He works whenever he wants, so he doesn't have a set sleep schedule. I used to go to sleep 11:130 p.m. prior to living with him. I compromised to 12:30 a.m., but there are nights he goes to bed 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. There is a master bedroom and a guest bedroom. I was sleeping in the master, and he would go in and out disrupting me, so I have yelled at him. He tells me, "Give me 10 minutes and I'll be in bed." Hours go by, he is still not in bed, and making noises the kitchen or living room. He told me, "You can go to sleep without me." There is a lot of noise when he comes into the master, and he says that's where all his things are there, so he needs to go in and out. I tried sleeping in the guest room. Does not have a lock, but when I do so, he comes into there and disrupts my sleep instead of just going in the master. I have only been getting 6.5 hours of sleep for weeks now. Very broken. Yesterday evening, I told him I have a doctor's appointment at 8 a.m. before work, so I have to be up at 6:30-ish. I got ready for bed at 10 p.m. in the guest room and was watching TV on my computer with a plan to go to sleep at 11 p.m. I put a note on the door saying, "I have to be up early, please be considerate." I fell asleep at 1130-ish with my eye mask on, fan on for white noise, always use this, sleep podcast, and he came in 3 times while I was sleeping and woke me up. He was drunk, turned on the light, pulled up my eye mask. I begged him every time to let me go to sleep because I have to be awake early. Then he started making a lot of noise in the hallway, saying he was having 8 strippers over, making sex noises in the bedroom. I told him, "I'm leaving. I just want to sleep. Why don't you let me sleep?" I was on my hands and knees on the floor crying, and he said, I'm sorry. I was just playing. I'm a jerk." I told him I need to go get some sleep, and my plan was to just sleep in my car. It was now 1 a.m. I left, and he's calling me telling me he is sorry and he's in bed. Can I come back and we can go to sleep? I come back and he is not in bed. He is in the basement getting laundry. I said I want to go to sleep. I try to sleep again, and he then comes in and starts cuddling me, telling me he loves me, and he's sorry. I ask him to come to my appointment with me tomorrow, and he agrees. I said I have to go to the bathroom. I go pee, and when I come out, he is in the bathroom. 10 minutes go by, and he's still in there. I start screaming at him to come. He says he's peeing. Then I go and open the door, and he closes it before I can get in. He tells me he's taking NyQuil. I just freaked out. I go into the bedroom and pull off everything on the dresser onto the floor. I then turn over the lamp nightstands. Ended up breaking one. He pushes me onto the bed, and there is a necklace that he said he can't find. He is freaking out, and I'm scared, so I tell him I'll help him find it. We find it. It's past 2 a.m., and we go to sleep in the guest room. He is on my side, so I just go into the master and sleep there until my alarm goes off. I wake him up, and he starts getting ready, and he notices his front veneer is gone. Was there last night. He accuses me of taking it. I said I didn't. I try to help him, but I have to go to my doctor's appointment, so I say, "Let's go and I'll help you find it afterward." He says he wants to find it, so he stays. On the way there, he texts me, "You don't care about me. Get out and leave me alone. You're one of the most selfish individuals I met." I don't respond. Then he calls me saying he found it. I go to my APT, get back home, and I have to work 5:30 p.m. today. IWFH. He is sleeping as I type this. I'm going to get a hotel tonight and look into moving out this weekend. I feel horrible for throwing stuff on his dresser on the floor, but I can't take this constant lack of sleep. Ada? Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, he's immature and reacting poorly to moving in. How old are you two and how long have you been dating? OOP, I am 32 and he is 35. We have been dating since February 2024. Commenter, WTF did I just read? Did you never sleep at his house before moving in? Are you all on drugs? This is very dysfunctional. Leave. OOP. He just bought this house a month ago. I slept at his apartment before I moved in. If he didn't let me sleep, I would leave and go to my own apartment. It wasn't to this degree. If I had to work, he would come to bed by 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. the latest. I don't have my own apartment anymore. He uses increased amounts of alcohol to sleep. Not sure about other things. I drink socially a few times per month, and I don't use any other drugs. Top comments. X_hyperballad_X. This dude is a psychopath. Regular situation 33. This shit all sounds like a meth head. Non-bi_gremlin. Get the fuck out and be prepared for some wild love bombing trying to get you back. You've tried to set perfectly reasonable boundaries, and he repeatedly ignores them. The man needs professional help, and you can't be that. Have a friend or relative help you pack. Don't be alone with him. Block all calls, texts. Update 1. Same post. A few hours later. Update. Thank you to everyone for the responses and for opening my eyes to the reality of my situation. I feel as though I have been in a daze, doubting myself and questioning my own sanity. Absolutely do not recommend not sleeping. I logged off work early, saying I wasn't feeling well. I checked into a hotel. Not the closest one because I think he may look for my car there first, going to sleep now. Update 2, same post, December 21st, 2024, next day. Second update, context. This is a different relationship than my last posts. I started dating this guy in February 2024. Editor's note, OP means posts she posted months ago. He actually proposed to me at the end of May 2024 after a few months of dating with a stunning engagement ring. I said I wasn't sure because it was so soon, wore it for a day, and gave it back. I said I wanted us to know each other better and live together before that step. I accepted a contract startup position in July with my job halfway across the country and was gone for weeks at a time. He asked me to move into his apartment before I accepted that position, but I told him I wanted to see it though. I would come back for 2 weeks at a time, and we would stay together. He always stayed up later than me until 1-2 a.m., but he would put headphones in, turn off lights, be quiet, respectful when I was sleeping. It was only after I moved into his house, mid-November, that things escalated. He told me he wanted to put me on the deed of the house. However, I declined. There is a safe in the house where he keeps cash. Probably drugs too. Maybe a gun. He was quite dodgy about answering this. He asked me if I wanted the code. I said no, I didn't want to be accused if ever anything was missing. The red flags were there, and my intuition was trying to warn me. Should have listened to it sooner. I slept for 11 hours. Yay! My parents live 5 hours away. I was planning to see them Christmas Eve. I called and told them everything. Staying with a friend tonight, my dad offered to pick me up tomorrow, and I'll be there for a few weeks at least. I will be breaking up with my BF, but I want to be a few states away before I tell him. If he shows up at my parents' home, we're going to call the police. My dad and my brother said they'll come back with me later on to get the rest of my belongings. IDK if I even want to go back there to get them. I just know I can't do it right now. Thank you all. OOP's comment. Commenter, you are an example of what women should do in these types of situations, relationships. This guy was trying to break you so you would do whatever he wanted. Too many women allow it to happen, though the signs are glaring. My only complaint about your post is why on earth you posted here. Do you really think you're the asshole in this scenario? OOP. I did. I felt like the asshole at the time of this post. I have never had a situation where I barged into the bathroom while I knew someone was in there, screamed and yelled at them while banging on the door, tossed someone's belongings off their dresser, broke lamps, and damaged someone else's property, in their house nonetheless. I have never been violent before. I know I said most nights over the past 3 weeks I was sleeping 6.5 hours, and that's true. I had realistically slept max 4 hours the night before I posted this. I am someone that needs 8, 9 hours. Maybe that's what makes me the asshole. But you know what? I'm okay with that. Story 7. I don't think my boss knows that I know there's a camera in my office. Original post May 31st, 2023. I don't know where to start because I'm not even sure if this is weird or not. I started at this new job not long ago, and since the first day I've known there was a camera in my office. I don't think it's necessarily weird to have cameras in an office setting. There's cameras in all sorts of places for all kinds of reasons. But the camera in my office isn't any sort of built-in fixture. And my individual office room is the only office with a camera in it. On my first day of the job, I realized my boss was too aware of my actions. He said something to me that threw me off, and I knew he wouldn't have brought it up unless he had been watching me do something. It was just too coincidental. But it was casual at the same time, so it wasn't a direct allusion to the camera he has. But immediately after that incident, I scanned around the room, and I found a camera nestled into a cubby with a small wire that leads into his adjacent office. My other boss has also indirectly responded to my actions in the group chat. The few times I had spent an excessive amount of time on my phone were times that the "Hey guys, let me know if you guys need anything to work on, I know things are slow" messages would trickle in. Anything that seemed to hint at me being watched was also said or done ambiguously enough that they weren't revealing anything about being able to see me, as if I'm not supposed to know I'm being watched. And that's what is unsettling to me. The camera is pointed directly at me. Not the door, not the front of my desk, not anywhere else that would make sense for security. I've looked at everyone else's offices and didn't see a single camera. The camera is pointed specifically at me, and I don't even deal with money or anything that could be stolen. I don't know if I should bring this up. I'm not entirely mad, and I guess I understand the reasoning, like making sure I'm on task or some shit. It just bothers me a little that I can be watched whenever, and they never even disclose that. I feel like someone being constantly monitored has the right to know that they are. Especially since I'm the only one being watched like this. I at least use it to my advantage because I at least know not to be on my phone, LOL. Top comments. On Samantha Pleaserx. Anytime you are finished with a task and waiting for another one, spend excessive amounts of time staring into the camera. AMC_unlimited. Yes, and don't blink at all. Just stare vacantly directly into the camera. Update. I wasn't expecting so many responses. I genuinely appreciate how concerned everyone is about whether or not I'm okay. It makes me feel good knowing a lot of people care about a stranger's well-being. I've seen a lot of comments asking for an update, so this is really the most I have of one. Nothing has changed yet. I haven't brought it up to them because part of me is wondering if they'll eventually remove it. I was curious to see if they would ever bring it up themselves, or if I could find a way to hint at the fact that I know. I sort of want them to stay unaware that I know so I can see how they act in response to my actions to potentially call it out in the future. The top comment is pretty funny about staring into the camera. There were a few times where something ridiculous would happen with something, and I'd stare into the camera for a moment as if I was breaking the fourth wall Elmao. I don't think I'm going to bring it up just yet. I actually really like working here. I get along with my coworkers, and they pay me decently for what I do. For everyone asking, yes, I'm a woman. I don't think this is as much of a sexual harassment case as it is just a micromanaging thing. They haven't done or said anything to me to make me feel like they were hitting on me. Just genuine politeness. My guess for the camera is that they're maybe testing my integrity and seeing how much time I spend on my phone even out of the view of other people. Which I could understand, but wow, I wish there was another way besides a camera on me. There's been a few other micromanaging things to happen that have irked me a little, but I still like my boss, as in spite of that. If something changes, like if I start getting the vibe that this is becoming creepy, I'll keep you guys updated. Oh, and also a few things I wanted to mention that a lot of people had ideas about. You guys had good ideas, BTW. Due to where it's at, it would be really hard to cover the camera with anything. I can't exactly reach it, so I'd have to find something like maybe a wide shelf that would block view from underneath it. The wire runs into my boss's office. You can't see the wire from mine, so I'd have to take a pic of it from inside his office. So IDK if I'm able to evidence collect too easily. I'm also trying to be a bit vague with details because I got a little paranoid about the idea of my boss somehow coming across this thread. Anyways, I appreciate you guys, and I'm sorry I don't have a more thrilling update. I'll let you know if anything changes. Update has been made into a separate post. This one was getting a bit long-winded. Update June 25th, 2023. Here's the original post that this updates. There's no HR, but the camera was removed thanks to IT. So, as previously stated, I still never said anything about the camera. I wasn't really comfortable with it, but I got used to being conscious of my actions, so they weren't seeing anything I didn't want them to. There also isn't some sort of HR to talk to about this or anything like that. But our IT guy came in and he asked my boss about it. I wasn't in the room, so I didn't hear entire conversation. But the first thing I heard was my boss saying that the camera was there before my office ever was. Something about using it to see the front door originally, I guess. That was a weird excuse to me, though, because I've been there for at least 2 months at this point, and there's no way they could have accidentally watched me, as much as it felt like they had been. Hearing the conversation out loud also confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was a camera, and that I wasn't paranoid. The IT guy must have felt some type of way about it, because I didn't hear what he said, but I heard my boss say something about, well, it's not like I was just watching her in her office, in sorta a quieter, sheepishly defensive way. Nobody said anything to me while they were removing it. They took it from his side, not mine, but they instead put it where it would be facing the front door. This happened just over a week ago. I haven't posted an update until now because I was waiting to see if the camera would be put back. I really wanted to see if they were going to put it back a few days after IT left, because that would have been wild. But it's been over a week now. The camera is still away from me. It'll take some time before I stop feeling like I'm being watched all the time, though. I'm really curious what the guy said to my boss, whether he said something about it not being allowed, or if he called it flat-out creepy haha. But I'm glad he did say something, as it got resolved without me ever having to say anything. I'd like to think he low-key had my back. I've still just been acting as if I've never known and haven't said anything about it, and work carries on. Also, it's so wild that this story got put in a Smosh video, holy shit. I heard the news back-to-back. First the, hey, Smosh just bought their channel back, at the same time as, hey, your post is in a new Smosh video. I made this post mostly to vent, because I couldn't tell if I had the right to feel so weird about this situation, because everyone in my personal circle says it isn't that weird, so it's so nice that so many strangers are validating how I feel. To hear people talk about my experience on a public platform was a little surreal. I won't lie. This got so much more traction than I was ever expecting, but it makes me feel better, so thank you. Genuinely. My experience feels validated and it feels heard, and I feel better because of it. I'm still going to stay at this job because I still like everyone here and I enjoy my field, but now I'll be doing it under a little less surveillance, LOL. If the camera comes back, I'll let you know. Relevant comment. Believe 33. The real question is, if the camera was used to see the front door, why was it connected to his PC? Wouldn't you want something like that connected to a separate PC to record and back up the footage for security purposes? Also, are there security cameras inside or outside this business? If so, then that's super suspicious. OP. The idea behind having the camera facing the door is that they know whether the people walking in are clients or just the mailman, another coworker. It's to avoid having to get up out of the office to check who's in the front, because there's no front desk, technically. The weird thing to me, though, is that his office is actually the only office that you can see the front door from, so it doesn't make any sense for him to have one facing it. OP added this comment about why don't they sue? Here. I don't have the money for a lawyer. I'd also end up having to look for a new job during the legal process. Lawsuits can take years, apparently. I still know several people fighting for compensation for on-site work injuries. And this is the best-paying job I've had up until this point. There's also a lot of growth, so I'm willing to take the discomfort of this if it means I can survive without 2 jobs, haha. Plus, I don't even know if my case would have been solid enough anyway. The camera is moved, and I never got a decent pic of the cam, or any evidence that it was actively recording. Not to mention I literally just don't want to sue my boss, ES. They actually treat their employees really well and always compensate well for extra work that is done, instead of just piling on new work whenever they want. They're really sweet people that make me feel like my ideas actually matter, which is a nice feeling. I really appreciate how they do things. And even if the camera thing itself made me feel a little weird, it's the price I gotta pay to make a decent wage RN. The job market in my area isn't the best, TBH. This place is an 80% pay increase from the previous place I worked for similar work in the same area. Everyone in the company is also just super sweet. I get along with everyone, and everyone seems pretty mutually respectful. Story 8. Original post, July 31st, 2020. Last week I was completely and utterly happy. Head over heels in love with my fiancée. We've been together for years. We found out in May she was pregnant. Life didn't feel like it could get any better. I'm an essential worker, and still unfortunately have to travel from time to time for my job. I have been trying to cut down on plane travel, and will drive if able. Last week I was scheduled to be gone all week, but ended up being able to leave several days ahead of time, but wanted to surprise my fiancée. It was an 8-hour drive, but ended up being close to 14 because of traffic and poor timing on my part. I get home around 10:30 p.m. and find her and a coworker in our bed together having sex. She's an assistant producer at a local news station and he's one of the anchors. She immediately tries to defuse the situation and says it's not what I think it is, and not to jump to conclusions. He jumps up and puts his clothes on and leaves. I was so angry I was seeing stars. She tries to talk to me about it, but I don't want to hear it. I leave and call a buddy and have been staying with him for the past 6 days. I spoke to her on the phone yesterday and she told me it was a one-time thing and she feels like the passion has been missing in our relationship, which I don't agree with at all. I think she was trying to justify the cheating and gaslight me. I'm so angry and she won't stop harassing me. I don't know what to do. We're going to be parents and I don't want anything to do with her, but I'm stuck with her for the next 18 years. Minimum. She hasn't even apologized. She just keeps trying to justify her actions. Asterisk, asterisk. Relevant comments. When suggested the affair may have been going on longer and get a DNA test. No doubt in my mind it's been going on longer than 1 day. They work a lot together and pre-pandemic they had a lot of late nights together. I do believe the baby is mine because I didn't really travel anywhere during that time, and she didn't leave the house either. They were only having a couple people in the studio and rotating, but we'll see request 1 for my own solace. Is the AP married? I just Googled him and he doesn't appear to be, and has no pictures of any woman on his social medias, but does follow a lot of our NFL team's cheerleaders and models LOL, so only a matter of time before he strays. Update. So sorry for taking so long to update. This week has been hellish. Met with my friend's lawyer, family law buddy, early last week. He contacted her and threatened to go public about their affair, so she was more forthcoming with information. She told him they had been sleeping together for over a year. She's 85% sure the baby is mine because they never have unprotected sex, but doesn't want to have a DNA test until the baby is born. Lawyer believes the baby is the other guy's based on this comment. I haven't fully moved out yet. Just moved a lot of my clothes into my buddy's place. The lawyer thinks I should sell the house and not let her buy me out because he doesn't think she has the funds and would BS me. Also, sorry if I didn't answer you. I got a ton of messages here and in DMs. I tried to answer any much as I could. If you have any other questions, I'll be on for a bit. Update 1 February 1st, 2021. Firstly, I'm so sorry it took me so long to update this. My original post is archived, so I thought I would make a new post so you can respond back. Here was my update on the OP. I'm still blown away by the amount of people checking up on me both in this thread and via DM. I really appreciate the support and love during this trying time. On to what you're here for. We did multiple DNA tests. The baby is mine. He was born a few weeks ago and is by far the greatest thing to happen to me. He makes all this mess worth it. His mother and I are not together. I strictly speak to her about the baby, and that is all. House is sold. Closing is 3/1, but we do not need to be there. Still living with my buddy, hoping to buy a new home in the next few months for my son and I. I did not go public with the affair out of respect for our son. Her employers know, and she was terminated. He is still working there. I'm not sure what their relationship consists of, and I don't care. I'm guessing he bolted. Relevant comment. Did OOP report them to HR? Yup, sure did. She got fired. He did not. He's not married. Why wasn't AP fired? I have no idea why he wasn't fired. I'm guessing because he's harder to replace. Maybe he's on probation. Why doesn't OOP ruin AP's reputation? The problem with ruining his reputation is my ex ends up getting dragged in, then ends up becoming Googleable to our child and his future friends. Why didn't OOP sue the employer? Oh, they did try to offer me money, LOL my lawyer, and I declined. Once I found out my ex was gone, I dropped it. I'm assuming he got into some type of trouble. Update. New beginnings after an affair, December 20th, 2024. I made this throwaway over 4 years ago when I had just found out my ex-fiancée cheated on me with her coworker. You can read my original post and update here. I actually completely forgot I made this account until I was going through my email to delete stuff yesterday. I figured I'd log back in and give all the people in situations similar to and worse than mine some hope. I was incredibly broken when this happened and tried to put all my feelings aside when our son was born. I'm ashamed to share my feelings eventually caught up with me and my ex, and I went at it, verbally, on multiple occasions. Shortly after I realized I let her break me and started going to therapy regularly. I went a couple times before that and didn't think it helped, but once I was consistent, it was a game changer. As a man, I was taught to suck it up and move, but crying and talking about issues does help. I mean, honestly, talking about them, not in a stoic way like I had been doing. My ex and I are actually on friendly terms. She is also in therapy. I'm proud to say we co-parent really well. We do family activities together, like opening gifts on Christmas or spending the day with him on his birthday. He's 4. How do I have a 4-year-old? He's so smart, funny, and loves us both so much. We do 50-50 its custody. It works for us. She's a great mom. I won't take that away from her. I'm sure this isn't the update some of you wanted to hear, but it's what works best for our son. I don't hate her anymore, and she doesn't hate me anymore. We're both in a really good place. No, I don't ever want to be with her again. She has apologized to me for her affair. We had a really open and honest conversation with each other like 2 years ago, and it really helped me heal. I got to air out all my feelings, and so did she. AP moved to a new news station like 3 years ago. In a different state. They don't speak anymore. She's dating, but nothing serious. She does have a new job working in another local news station. She started working when our son was a year old. I'm doing really well. Enjoying watching our son grow up. I've been dating someone for the past 2 years. She's the best human I've ever met. She loves my son as her own. She really worked with me to mend my trust issues. Ironically, we met at work. Even my ex likes her and has no problem with her being around our son. Don't worry, I waited a full year to introduce her to our son. Just wanted you all to know things do get better. And although things didn't work out the way I had initially planned, I'm still incredibly happy and our son is thriving. Relevant comment. Connect Initiative 64. I'm more so wondering, did he ever get punished? Like, if you weren't a more level-headed person, you could have caused a shitstorm for that news station. The fact only she got fired is mind-boggling to me. I would have expected him to be axed immediately for opening them up to a PR nightmare. Also, you said she apologized. Did she ever explain her reasoning behind the affair? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I like hearing the excuses they give. It's almost comical after so many years of hearing them repeatedly. I don't honestly know. I'm sure there was some sort of action taken. I also think that might be why he left the news station and moved to a different state. People who work in the news industry have contracts that are typically 2-3 years long. So that adds up. I never outright asked my ex, and she never said anything to me. I think it was easier to fire her because she was coming to the end of her 2-year contract. I didn't know this at the time. With her station, and she made less money than he did. Viewers wouldn't know she was missing because she's not an on-air talent. So less questions than him being fired. Usually when someone leaves this station, they have a little party and wish them well. They did not do this with that guy. He was on one day and gone the next. We found out on social media he had moved to another station. All his coworkers unfollowed him, so something tells me he was on thin ice at the station. I don't want to get fully into it, but one of her major issues was I worked too much, and she's right. I was working a lot before she was pregnant, and I worked even more when I found out she was pregnant. We had planned to start trying for children after we got married, but she got pregnant before that and our wedding was canceled because of COVID. So once I checked my ego, I can see how she was lonely and felt like I wasn't there for her. Not a reason to cheat, but the resentment built up. Story 9. Ada for calling my coworker work sister after she called me work husband in front of everyone. I, 34M, work in a small office and we have about 30 people working here. Mary, 35F, is one of my co-workers. We have been working together for 6 years now. We have 6 people in our department, and we have to frequently travel across the state as our work involves overseeing government projects. We always travel in a group of 2. Although my travel partner changes based on the project, Mary and I are generally put on similar projects and enjoy each other's company. My wife also likes Mary. Overall, we have a very healthy work relationship. On to the incident. Yesterday, we had a happy hour in our office, and we were all drinking after work hours and chatting. It was a group of around 10 people that stayed back. Mary was blabbering about how we both have been traveling together so much in the last year. She was roasting me for my habits while traveling like always, forgetting stuff in my hotel room, being sweaty and stinky when I join her for breakfast in mornings because I go to hotel gym. Everyone was laughing and she was making it sound how unbearable I was to tag along, all in good fun. I also told some funny and sweet stories about her and agreed with her, saying that I can be difficult to be with sometimes. Mary came to me and hugged me tightly and told me that she loves me, and I am her work husband. It was all innocent on surface, but she might have been a bit drunk and just didn't let go of her tight hug. Also, I hate that phrase, as I do have a wife that I promise to be with forever, and not just in non-working hours. After a few seconds, I started becoming uncomfortable and also saw a few people staring at us. So to diffuse the situation, I took her hands off my shoulder and told her she was my work sister and that is why I love to annoy her so much. That seemed to have upset Mary, and she left and went back to her desk and was sobbing silently. I tried to apologize to her, but she told me how embarrassing the whole situation was. She said that she just meant work husband in platonic way, but me calling her work sister made her sound like a creep in front of the whole office. She was also angry that I aggressively removed her hands from my shoulders while hugging. I tried to reason with her that I do not like the work husband phrase, and also people gave dirty looks when she said it. So I was just trying to make sure people do not take her words in the wrong way. We talked for a few minutes afterwards, and Mary calmed down. She hugged me again and left. I felt really guilty afterwards because I can see Mary's point. I made her sound like a creep by implying that she meant something inappropriate when she called me her work husband. However, I was a bit uncomfortable in that situation and just did not want people to call us that or assume something wrong. Am I the AH for calling Mary my work sister? I am sitting in my office writing this and a bit worried if I embarrassed Mary in front of everyone. Relevant comma? Oddly _ quirky. Your NTA. All too often, work spouses end up being inappropriately involved, and you are trying to head off any rumors. Good on you. I think work sister is a much better term. _hummus. NTA, though you are being far too generous. The reason why she jumped straight to thinking you were calling her a creep, because she knows what she was doing was inappropriate. Work husband is considered widely inappropriate now. She knows this. You responded correctly. You owe your actual wife loyalty. Mary needs to back off and act more of a professional. Banff 1701. NTA. I think you were justified that whole time. Unfortunately, alcohol can make things awkward for everyone, but you were made uncomfortable by the extended hug, so you removing her arms from you was understandable. The problem is right now is that Mary is only considering her own feelings and not thinking at all how her actions made you feel. She did think that such a public display of affection might make a married man uncomfortable. She is only thinking that you made her look like a creep. And let's be honest, she did kind of look like someone hitting on a married man after drinking too much. Stop hitting thyself. NTA. Work sister is 100% a compliment. Work husband is the stuff that will get a person reported to HR. Mary is waving bright red flags. You might want to get ahead of this now. All your colleagues are suspicious. No more being paired with Mary. Consider telling your wife before one of them does. Capman are 1,755. The best way to know that you needed to set a limit was her overreacting, sobbing at her desk. It was time to stop it. Don't give her any extra attention for her outburst. Just cheerfully go about your day. Say good morning, joke about your favorite TV show. Don't take any bait. 2. If she tries to bring it up again, repeat what you said. She's a great co-worker, but you only have one wife, so you don't do the work wife jokes. Nothing personal, but it's not for you. 3. If she brings it up a second time, you'll need to email your supervisor to get written documentation. You just describe what happened, as you did above, when and where, and that you'd like them to informally coach her on letting it go. 4. If she brings it up a third time, you'll need to go to HR and ask to be taken off projects involving travel with her. I really hope she can pull it together and that she can join you in cheerfully going back to work. But remember that it's her making this weird, not you, and your first responsibility is to preserve your own employment. A Mythy Asshole's consensus bot said OP was not the asshole. Editor's note. I looked through the comments and didn't find a single YTA, ESH, or NA. It was universally NTA. Update July 2nd, 2024, 5 days later. I posted this on Amity Asshole About, calling my coworker Mary my work sister, after she tried to call me her work husband in front of the entire office. A lot of you are asking for update, but that sub does not allow me to post update, so I am writing it here. Thanks everyone for your comments and giving me confidence that I did not do anything wrong or inappropriate. As I was sitting in office the next day, I knew things would be a bit awkward between Mary and me. Mary ignored me the whole morning. Initially, I was planning to go and apologize to her, but after the post, I decided that I do not need to do that, as I should be the one who was offended. Everyone in the office could see that we were acting weird, and I heard some people gossiping about us. One of the ladies also came to me and asked me if I want to talk about Mary and me. Around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, I was sitting in my office working. Mary came into my office and closed the door behind her. She was angry at me and started saying that I need to stop being an asshole and stop ignoring her. I told her to sit and to talk about what is going on. She told me that she feels humiliated, and everyone has been starting at her the whole morning because of what I did. I also stood my ground and told her that I was okay with her making fun of me, but calling me her work husband and hugging me in front of everyone for a long time made the situation awkward. She told me to get over myself and that I should know exactly what she meant. Mary said that I made a big deal of what was supposed to be a joke and made it awkward for everyone. She said calling someone work husband is a normal thing and just means that she knows me intimately like a spouse would. She said that because we spend so much time traveling together, she knows all the intimate details of how I behave outside work. I stopped her and told her that I felt offended by the term work husband, because I have a wife and I do not want people to use that term to describe our relationship. I told her that she would not understand as she is single, but as a married man, I really do not want anyone to describe me as a husband in any capacity. She said that I am again misinterpreting what she was saying. She felt that as we have known each other more time than I have been married, she knows me more intimately than even my wife. I have no idea why she feels that way, and I also behave like her husband when we travel together. She went on about how we go out to dinners together after work, how I always insist on having breakfast together in morning to plan our actions of the day, and I walk around in my underwear, referring to my gym shorts, around her in mornings. She also talked about how we spend hours talking to each other during road trips, and how I am the only man she can trust with any secret in her life. She said that I am the definition of work husband, and I am just in denial. I was a bit angry at this point. I told her that I do all that because I consider her my friend, and she is delusional if she feels she knows me more intimately than my wife. I told her I do not want to hear that term again, and it is extremely disrespectful to my marriage. Only one woman gets to call me her husband, and that is my wife. Moreover, if my actions are giving her such ideas, maybe we need to stop being friends. She became apologetic afterwards and told me that she did not mean to disrespect my wife, and it was not her intention. She apologized to me and told me to just let it go. She said that she loves traveling with me, and she does not want anything to change between us. She again said that I am misinterpreting her statement and just wants to move on. She came to hug me again, but I just told her it was okay and stepped back. I also talked to my wife about the incident that night. As expected, my wife was angry at Mary and told me that she hates the term work husband. She asked me if Mary has ever flirted with me during our trips or has a crush on me. I truthfully told her that I really have not felt that way, and she may have just said that because she was a bit drunk and is now being stubborn about it. My wife said that she feels a bit uncomfortable about Mary now and says that it's strike one for Mary, and I need to try and put more distance between us while traveling. If she ever repeat the same behavior again, I should report her to HR. I promised my wife that I would try to reduce my interactions with Mary outside work hours and be more guarded around her. Relevant comment. Marv 115. Mary's description of your relationship sounds really clingy and dependent. She has created a narrative in her head about your connection. The only man she can trust with any secret in her life that's not a work husband, whatever that means. You better keep your interactions register in public. This can bite you in the butt very fast. Otherwise beat 2,295. NTA. I agree you should go to HR so they're aware of the situation. I would also suggest no more business trips with her if possible. The fact that she claims to know you more intimately than your wife is not only delusional and disrespectful, it's concerning. She's only beginning to show her crazy side. Character_schedule 34. NTA. I also think that if you're married, the terms work husband/wife are very inappropriate. Your wife sounds like a very reasonable person. She's upset but not taking it out on you. You made the right call, and if anything, you could even get ahead of the game by going to HR now about the situation. OP. Just curious, but what would the HR complaint even be? I feel uncomfortable about the situation, but beyond speculation, I do not see what I can complain about. Masked Crocheter. Hey, HR person, I would like to file something with you just so it's on record. At the moment, it feels like things are resolved, but just in case something else happens in the future, I just want to cover all bases. Here's what happened. Here's what I did about it. Here's what Mary's response was. Here's where things are at now. I don't want anyone to have another conversation with her at this time because I believe it will escalate things instead of letting things die down. But if she doesn't let things go, I wanted HR to be in the loop. Divine Greek Goddess. NTA, I agree with you, wife. Mary's reaction was so off and defensive. Instead of owning it and apologizing, she continued to double down and say that she knew you more intimately. She is quite the presumptuous woman. I 100% believe that this woman has romantic feelings for you, and all these comments about work husband and the ever-lingering hug, plus saying she knows you better and more intimately, do not speak of someone who has a platonic friendship or professional relationship in mind. I would not travel with her anymore and see if you can put some distance with her and not have to work with her. This woman is going to cause trouble for you. Her reaction was one of possession over you, which comes when someone has amorous feelings. Trustyworthy Judas. Okay, never, and I do mean never be in a room alone with this woman ever again, because when you go to HR, and you definitely should, in retaliation, she could spin any number of accusations against you now, even if you don't think she is capable of that kind of behavior. You're having trouble right now because she is acting in a manner you would not have expected from her. NTA, Update 2, edited in post 8 hours later. Thanks everyone for the comments and explaining the urgency of the situation. I discussed it with my wife and have set up meetings with my manager and HR today. I plan to not file a complaint, but document what happened last week and why it made me uncomfortable. I do not have any upcoming travels this week due to holidays, but have to travel next Tuesday with her to a work site. I will discuss with my manager on what my options are. However, I feel a little distance between Mary and me for some time would be the right solution for now. Update 3 September 3rd, 2024, 2 months from OP. I wrote a while ago regarding my coworker friend Mary being upset with me for calling her my work sister when she called me her work husband in front of everyone. I'm sorry to leave everyone hanging, but the next few weeks were busy, and the issue was eventually resolved. Thanks to everyone for the comments. They really helped me when I talked to my manager about the situation. However, the last week has been crazy, so I wanted to get some opinions on what I should do next. After my last post, my wife and I were no longer comfortable with Mary's behavior. Although a part of me thought I was overreacting and that it was just part of Mary's personality, I felt the need to protect myself. I requested a meeting with my manager and HR to document my side of the story. I wrote down everything and told them about the incident at the party, as well as Mary coming into my office and the comments she made. I made it clear that while I did not want them to take action against her, I wanted to emphasize that her behavior made me uncomfortable, especially her comments about knowing me better than my wife and remarks about my shorts. My manager had already heard about the incident at the happy hour, as everyone in the office was talking about it. He told me he would try to shake up the travel schedule to minimize our travel together. The issue was that only 4 people in our company generally work on off-site audits, and the other 2 co-workers did not want to split up because they claimed they worked well together. As a result, I continued traveling with Mary for the next couple of weeks, but it was awkward, and I kept my distance. My manager then called Mary and me to his office and informed us that he was planning to train a new auditor, Carolina, 26F, and set up a schedule where she would travel with me for 1 week and then with Mary the following week. We were asked to train her. I liked this arrangement because it meant I no longer had to travel with Mary. Carolina turned out to be a great travel buddy, and I made sure not to get too comfortable with her. I always dressed professionally when we went for breakfasts, avoided late-night drinks, and maintained healthy boundaries. Things were great until last week. Last Tuesday, I could feel everyone staring at me when I entered the office, and I was immediately called to a meeting with my manager and HR. HR asked if I had anything to report regarding Carolina and if she had made any advances toward me during our work trips. I told them no, that Carolina had been very professional the entire time. I asked why I was being interrogated, and they told me they couldn't disclose any further details, but that Carolina was being investigated by HR for inappropriate conduct. I left the meeting, and Mary came to my office, asking what had happened. She mentioned that she was also told Carolina would no longer be traveling with us, and that we were asked to travel together again. I told her I had no idea what was going on. I messaged Carolina to see if she was okay and if she needed to talk. She asked if she could come to my office, and I agreed. Carolina explained that someone anonymously sent messages to her boyfriend, posing as someone from the office over the weekend. The message included screenshots of Carolina sending some inappropriate pictures she had taken in her hotel rooms during our travels and flirtatious messages. This person claimed to her boyfriend that Carolina was trying to cheat with him at work, and he was just trying to warn them. Her boyfriend went crazy after seeing the pictures, ghosted her, and then sent the messages to HR as revenge. Carolina was in tears, telling me that she had only taken those pictures for her boyfriend and had no idea how they got leaked or how those messages even existed. Her boyfriend was furious because he also received the exact pictures from Carolina and knew they weren't fake. I consoled Carolina, but she's in deep trouble as our workplace takes such things very seriously because we work on government contracts, and I'm sure everyone suspects I am the anonymous messenger. I was told that the matter would be investigated, and Mary and I would be working together on the project again. My manager said there was nothing he could do, and also mentioned that they might go through my emails and messages on my company phone as part of the investigation into Carolina. Mary seems very happy about the whole situation and keeps talking about how excited she is to revisit the restaurants and bars we used to frequent during off-site trips. She also keeps referring to Carolina as that pervert. The whole thing is just crazy. My wife, of course, believes that I would never do anything inappropriate with Carolina and that I wasn't the anonymous messenger. However, her conspiracy theory is that Mary, who was also traveling with Carolina, may have unlocked her phone and accessed the photos. It feels far-fetched, but the fact is, I'm not thrilled about traveling with Mary again. I don't think I have any other recourse to get off this project except leaving the job, which isn't possible at this time. I know many of you work in HR, and I would appreciate any advice on what I can do next. New update. Update for December 17th, 2024, 5 months from OP. I wrote a post 6 months ago regarding calling my coworker, Mary, work sister, and upsetting her in the process. Things got really weird afterwards, and I was paired with another coworker, Carolina, for work trips. Someone anonymously tipped Carolina's boyfriend that Carolina was engaged in messaging explicit pictures to her coworker, and he in turn reported her to our HR as revenge before breaking off with her. No one explicitly said it, but I could see that everyone suspected me to be the other person. After that, Mary and I were again asked to travel together despite of my reservations, mostly because others did not want to travel with me. I am sorry I did not write an update because nothing noteworthy happened until last Friday, and my wife Brooke and I have been arguing ever since about what to do next. I have been applying for similar positions in the last few months, but it is hard to find a similar job in this market. Brooke has expressed her reservations on me traveling with Mary, but also understands that I would stop traveling with her if I could. We have bills and mortgage, and I cannot just leave my job. Just like most commenters on previous posts, she believes that Mary framed Carolina. I have been extremely professional with Mary during our travels. Things are not as before where I would consider her my close friend. I am always guarded around her and try to spend most of my time in my room after work. Carolina stuck around for around a month after I wrote the post, when the HR was investigating the incident. I tried to support her initially, and also told my manager that she has been very professional. However, rumors started spreading around that I am going above and beyond to save her job, and she spent a lot of time in my office talking to me alone. We mutually decided that the optics were not good and started distancing ourselves. She resigned a month after the incident because she told me she cannot take it anymore. From what I know, she is still looking for a job. Mary, on the other hand, seems to be happy on our work trips. Although I act extremely professional around her, a part of me knows that she might be the person who framed Carolina. I have no proof, just intuition. I also feel Mary is the one spreading rumor about Carolina and me in office. She always plans for dinners after work, and sometimes asks me to get a drink at the hotel bar as before. I generally avoid drinking on these trips now. There were a few times where she insisted that I get a beer, but I told her that I am already on thin ice at work and promised Brooke I will not drink on these trips. This has not stopped her from getting hammered, and me having to drop her to her room at the end of the day few times. Brooke has been very supportive through the whole time and has never once suspected me or blamed me for anything. She has asked me to not drink on these trips and also to make sure I call her every night when I reach my room and when I go to sleep. I also voluntarily installed location tracking app on my phone so that she has a peace of mind to know where I am during these trips. On to the incident from last Friday. We had a Christmas party last Friday at our office. Brooke joined me, and the party was great. Mary asked me for a dance, but I declined, and Mary did not look thrilled about it. Brooke was lovely, and we danced together for most of the night. There was one point where I was talking to my manager and few other colleagues, and Brooke was talking to my manager's wife. Mary interrupted them and started bragging about how she has to take care of me during work trips, since I am so clumsy. Brooke also joined in on how I am clumsy and forgetful I am at home. Mary then told Brooke that I make her feel safe on the trips, and told her about the incident where she got drunk, and how I took care of her by dropping her to her room and sitting by her bedside until she fell asleep. Mary insisted that I am a gentleman and nothing happened, but how I also show care for her. Brooke knew about the incidents when I dropped he to her room. However, at no time did I enter Mary's room. Brooke did not say anything at that time, but when we got home, this turned into a huge argument. I told Brooke that I did not enter her room and just led her to her room and immediately called her and told her about the incident. I even showed her the text conversation where I messaged Brooke after leaving the restaurant and when I got to the room along with timestamps. After Brooke calmed down, she told me that she believes me, but it's crazy how fluently Mary lied to her in front of my manager's wife. She told me that Mary is just trying to plant a seed of doubt in her head, and she cannot pretend anymore that she is okay with Mary. She told me that Mary ruined Carolina's career, and if she does not get her way, she might do the same to me. Brooke has asked me if I can draw a red line on traveling with Mary, and if my manager does not accept, I should just resign. I feel Brooke is right, and nothing is more important to me than her. However, it feels so shitty to be in this situation, where all my hard work to reach this point in my career will be ruined. I do not know what to do next. I am really hoping to get advice and ideas on what I can do here. I just feel so trapped and not sure what I can do at this point. Relevant comment. New uniform. You really need to stop engaging with Mary at all other than what is necessary to do your job. You don't need to babysit her or get her to her room. You're kind of making it easy for her to raise suspicion in others. Do your job, then go back to your hotel room. You don't need to organize meals with her. You seem like you're still trying to be nice to Mary, which leads it to be easy for her to play you. And start making a paper trail. 0224. Actually, I think a condition of future trips is to be in separate hotels. With separate hotels comes separate travel to wherever you have to go. You can go back to your hotel to eat, etc., so you'll have far fewer interactions with her. Bonham 42. Tell your manager the truth, even about suspicions. You can say, I have no proof, but I do have suspicious Mary framed Caroline, and I am worried she may do the same to me. I feel sexually harassed, and this is causing problems in my marriage. Delicious Mud 7291. Mary interrupted them and started bragging about how she has to take care of me during work trips since I'm so clumsy. Mary then told Brooke that I make her feel safe on the trips and told her about the incident where she got drunk and how I took care of her by dropping her to her room and sitting by her bedside until she fell asleep. Mary insisted that I am a gentleman and nothing happened, but how I also show care for her. Dude, you're doing this to yourself. Quit babying her on these work trips. If she gets drunk, leave her alone and let her find her own way to her room. Because of your chivalry, you're not letting her fail and potentially getting fired. Leave her to her own devices, and whenever y'all are together, record her and document. Leave a paper trail if you can. Put your foot down with your manager regarding Mary, or say goodbye to your life when she claims you sexually assaulted her. Story 10. Ada for not kicking out my roommate just because my girlfriend thinks he might be trans? I, 22M, have a roommate. Let's call him Alex M, 23, who moved in about 6 months ago. I honestly never considered Alex may be trans. Not that I would care if he was, but that's not the issue. He is a short guy and probably under 165 cm/5'5", has a lot facial hair, muscles, and looks a lot like a short Henry Cavill emo. No one I know has ever brought up this idea before. I've had my friends and family at our apartment before. This is really the part that gets to me because my mom is extremely against any gay people, and if she sensed anything was up, she would have caused problems right away. Alex and I get along. We're polite, but not really friends. He's quiet, but super polite. Always pays rent on time, helps with chores, and even shares his cooking with me. I appreciate having him around, especially because my last 3 roommates were each their own horror story. The issue came up when my girlfriend, let's call her Sarah F28, came over one day. Alex was shirtless. To clarify, I forgot to tell Alex that she was coming over, and she noticed the scars on his chest. After that, she was quiet and short with me her entire stay there. When she got home, she blew up my phone, asking why I had a female living with me. I was confused and asked what she was on about. She says that she knows that his scars are from top surgery and that he is short, so he has to be trans and a born female. I tried to explain that even if Alex is trans or a born female, that there is no way I'd be attracted to him because to any person who looked at him, you would see a freaking guy. Plus, he's respectful and doesn't cause drama like my last roommates, which she knows about, just to be clear. I honestly still have no idea if Alex is even trans. I Googled it, and those scars could be from some other surgery, like heart surgery or gynecomastia. And I really don't have an argument for him being short, but there is a lot of short men. At first, Sarah wanted me to just ask Alex if he was trans, which why the fuck would I do that? Or give her his last name so she can run a background check? I said no to both. Then she said this was a violation of trust, and that if I didn't either find out that Alex is trans and kick him out, or just kick him out, that she would have to reevaluate things, basically threatening to break up. I said I don't do ultimatums, and that we're done. Since then, she's been messaging me every single day for over 2 weeks, even after I blocked her on everything because she wouldn't leave me alone, pissed that I wouldn't do this small thing for her. She ranges from, "Are you fucking him? Let's just talk. Why can't you at least give me closure and ask him?" to the most recent, her telling our mutual friend about the situation. Our friend wants nothing a part of this shit show. I didn't feel bad at first, but after talking about it online, I've had some people say I should have just asked my roommate if he was indeed trans just to keep the peace, or that I shouldn't have essentially picked my roommate, who I've only had for about 6 months, over my girlfriend of 5 years. I wonder if I am being unreasonable. I legitimately do not see how any straight dude could find Alex attractive, personally. But maybe I should have done something just to keep the peace. Soldier, my now ex-girlfriend thinks that my roommate is trans, told me to find out for sure or kick him out. I refused and broke up with her. Aita? Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, NTA. You don't owe that transphobic pose anything. You're right. It doesn't matter if he's trans or if it's from some other medical surgery. She is not owed any knowledge about his life, genitals, or medical history, just because she doesn't think he deserves to exist or thinks he's delusional or whatever other BS transphobes are spouting. You did the right thing blocking and dumping her. OOP. I asked her at one point if one of her friends or roommates asked if she had a vagina, would she be uncomfortable, and she pulled the "don't turn this around on me" and then pulled up a fucking Google screenshot of all common tactics used in gaslighting. Misdirection. The abuser changes the subject or redirects the conversation to confuse the victim. Minimization. The abuser downplays the victim's feelings, making them feel like their concerns are insignificant or like they're being overly sensitive. Which is insane to me. Commenter, why the hell would you be an asshole for leaving someone who both A, is a virulent transphobe, and B, thinks if you're ever in the presence of any other human with a vagina, you're inevitably going to fuck that person? Even if we remove the transphobia, she's neurotic about assuming you're a cheater. That alone is grounds for dumping for your own sanity. OOP. I do feel right in what I did for the most part, but there is some doubt in me. I admittedly feel ashamed of the doubt, but I still feel it. She was the first girl I ever dated, and I was with her for so long. Meanwhile, I've only been with my roommate for half a year. It does really fuck with you to lose someone you've been with for so long. Commenter. Info. Did you start dating your GF when you were 17 and she was 22? And aside from that slightly disturbing fact, you've been together 5 years and appear to not be moving forward, living together, etc. Where exactly was this relationship going? OOP. I really don't like talking about it, but yeah, you're right. I was 17 when we got together because that's what the age of consent in my state was. We were talking before that, but no relationship stuff happened until I turned 17. She was around 22 years old. Commenter. Would you be interested in a 17 years old right now? Even outside of this whole situation, it may be nice to explore other relationships as your ex seems problematic in a variety of ways, including but not limited to the bigotry, lack of trust, and weaponization of terms like gaslighting that are shown in this post. OP. No, I wouldn't. I really don't like thinking of her like that because she was a big part of my life, but thinking back, I don't think I could be interested in a 17-year-old. I don't even think I could date an 18-year-old. I get it's all legal, but it just feels weird. 18-year-old is still probably in high school with parents, and I'm in college and have bills to pay. Commenter. Your girlfriend is clearly a bigot. Think about whether that's the kind of partner you want. OP. I was on the fence for a bit if this was a transphobia issue, but I did talk to a Redditor in private, and after rereading some texts and thinking it over, I do think that she was being transphobic. If Alex is trans, then calling him a girl is a dick move. If Alex isn't trans and just had some surgery for his heart or cancer or something, then it's still a dick move. I feel bad because I didn't know it was transphobia. I really didn't. I am completely new to this stuff. Commenter. Just because you spent a long time making a mistake, that doesn't mean you have to hold on to it. OP, fuck. This is really the comment that hit me. Whenever we had problems, I kept saying, well, I've been with her this long, or I've known her this long. It really feels like a punch in the gut. I've been a dumbass. Commenter. Frankly, in a roommate situation, paying the rent on time and picking up after themselves means more than any kind of sexual orientation. OP. That's what I'm saying. He is the perfect roommate in my opinion. He is chill, doesn't bring drama, cleans up after himself, doesn't play loud music or videos at 2 a.m., and he even shares stuff he cooks with me. Considering out of my last roommates, 2 of them got arrested, this is a godsend. Commenter NTAOP. Is this the first time your ex-GF has become inappropriately obsessed with someone else's life that is none of her business? Has she ever expressed any sort of prejudice towards people of other demographics? OP. She always had a boundary that I couldn't be friends with women or men who were attracted to men. I think she has it in her head that if Alex is a trans dude, then that means he is suddenly a she, which makes no sense to me. Has she ever showed prejudice? I'm not too sure. She refuses to discuss any political or social topics like that to anyone, even her own mom. She prides herself in being anti-political and doesn't watch news or anything involving that. If a YouTuber she likes brings up politics, she would block and never watch that YouTuber again. I do think it is bordering an extreme because if the YouTuber is gay, trans, or mentions anything about social stuff, she treats that as being political. There is a movie commentary YouTuber, who Alex actually introduced me to, called Mistag. Once I was showing her a video on him reviewing a movie about La Llorona, and Mistag talked about being Hispanic and how he likes seeing Hispanic representation in movies, comparing it to seeing your favorite football team. And she said, shut that shit off, because it was too political to her. I think she views everything as political, even stuff I don't really think is political. Commenter, OP, how did you not see this side to her? I get that you are very young, but this is a woman who got with a minor as soon as it was legal. What would you other people say if the genders were swapped and verbally and physically abused you? Because that's what she did. I'm glad this happened so you could finally get rid of her. I bet in a few years you will be shocked you took so much abuse before leaving. Edit to add. I guess this comment came out wrong. I don't actually think OP is to blame. That's not what I wanted to convey. OP was definitely naive to think this behavior is out of character for X, but she is an abusive POS who likely groomed him. OP, this isn't me justifying it, I'm just explaining my side here. Any part of me that thought it was weird when I was younger got dismissed by everyone else around me. My mom got with a guy twice her age when she was 16, had me, guy got arrested for something else, and raised me on her own. She started joking about me and my ex being a cute couple and getting married since we were kids. Even when I was 12 and 13, she made jokes about sneaking me into her prom. My ex's mom also encouraged it, because her and my mom are best friends. I thought this was normal. I thought her losing her temper and raising hands was normal. I thought her insulting me wasn't her but the anger talking. If you have everyone around you telling something is okay, even if it isn't, it really does fuck with you. She is also literally the only woman I've been with, and I haven't even been friends with a woman for a long time because that made her uncomfortable. I get I was dumb, but try to see my side here. Edit, same day, same post. Edit to answer some questions. Did you break up with her? Yes. During the text conversation, we broke up. I always told her I had one rule, that I don't do ultimatums. If she were to say choose X or me, that I would leave. I put up with a lot of shit verbal and physical, but I don't put up with that kind of BS. Ages. I was 17 and she was 22 23rds when we got together. It's been a long time, so I'd have to look back to make sure. But yeah, I was for sure 17. We got together the day I turned 17. Our anniversary is my birthday. We couldn't get together before then because of the age of consent in my state, which I get now is really fucked up. I don't know if it helps, but we have known each other our entire lives. My mom is her mom's best friend. When my mom worked, I would go over to Sarah's mom's house so I wasn't alone. We started talking and flirting when I was about 15 or 16, but didn't cross any physical lines until I turned 17 because I didn't want her to get arrested. I get that sounds bad, I really do. But at the time I didn't see it as bad. Just in case it is asked, our moms encouraged it. Why would you want to be with someone like that? I don't. I really don't. I didn't realize it was transphobia until some people here talked to me about it. I thought it was just her being jealous. But I get how fucked up it is now. Please understand, I live in the Bible Belt. I didn't even know trans people existed until I was 16. My person thoughts is that I don't see a problem with people being trans and transitioning. I think at the end of the day, it isn't my business. Is Alex trans? I have no clue. He could be, but he could have also had breast cancer, gyno, heart, lung, or any kind of other surgery. I used a photo from Google Reddit because this whole time I personally thought he had gyno or something. But it's not my business. Is Alex safe? I'll talk to him when I get home and then talk to my landlord. I will change my gate code and also have her removed from the allowed guests list, and also ask my landlord to not let her in personally. She hasn't been too violent of a person in the past, but I also didn't know she was this insane in the past either. Was there abuse? I feel like this has been kinda implied in some questions. I don't know. Has she insulted me? Yes. Has she been physical? Yes. But nothing crazy. Slapping, pushing, shoving, but never anything like punching or drawing blood. Why use CM if you're American? I was born and raised American. However, I got a couple of friends who use metric from college, and after sharing a group chat with them for so long, the habit has stuck. If anyone cares, we're in automotive engineering. The photo? The photo is not actually Alex. I searched Google for gynosurgery photos and then found a Reddit post talking about it. I used it as a reference for what I mean. Scarring under the chest and around the nipple area. I definitely wouldn't actually post a photo of Alex here, censored or not. I'm sorry for confusion. Here is the source for full transparency. Editor's note, OOP no longer has the photo in his post. Why didn't you ask Alex about his scars? I have a few reasons. I personally wouldn't like it if someone asked me. Second, my mom has scars all around her body for different reasons and gets livid if you ask her about them. Third, probably the one that confuses people the most, I didn't really care enough to ask. I was curious, but not I just thought, and then went on with my business. Comment. OP responds to a longer comment. OP. Do you think that a man slapping, pushing, shoving, but not punching or drawing blood from his girlfriend is okay? Would you consider doing this to your girlfriend or any future partner in the future? If you heard your female friend doing this to her boyfriend, or your male friend doing this to his girlfriend, would you be fine with it? It's less that I don't think women can be abusers, and more like I felt this was a normal way for someone to convey being upset, or what I am slowly realizing, I do think I deserved it. If any of my friends, male or female, told me their partner was hitting them, I would tell them to leave and not put up with it. I think there is some party of me that believes that I did deserve it, and I recognize that isn't healthy. So I'm going to get help. Commenter, the moms encouraged a 17-year-old to date a 22-year-old? LUTF is happening, am I misunderstanding? OP. My mom is one of those people who only thinks it a problem if it's an adult with someone under the age of 13 sexually. Yeah, I had to specify sexually for a reason. My biological father got my mom pregnant with me when she was 15/16. He was more than double her age. I don't know if that experience warped her perception of reality or what. She has been through a lot. And I recognize that, but fuck. Not to rant, but she is the textbook definition of continuing the cycle. Small update, same post, October 30th, 2024. Next day. I talked to Alex. I got advice saying to be upfront and tell him what's up completely, hide the trans part, and that I just shouldn't tell him. I don't know if this was the right thing, but I just told him. Because once I was face-to-face with him, I couldn't really help but do it. To clarify, I did not ask him about his scars or mention that specifically. I said my ex-girlfriend was under the impression he was a trans person, made sure to say I didn't care if he was or wasn't, and that I broke things off, changed the gate codes, put her on the do not let in list, all that drama. Before even saying anything, he asked if I was okay. Like I said, he is a chill dude. He also not so subtly asked the same questions that a lot of comments asked, essentially if I was in an abusive situation. I told him I don't know, but whatever kind of situation it was, it's over. The thing that really kind of fucked with me is that he called me his best friend. I regret not saying we were close in other comments. I realize now we have different definitions of close because he is introverted and I'm not. We talked about irrelevant stuff for a while, and then the question came up, would you care if I was trans? To summarize things, yes, Alex is trans-mask. He had top surgery when he was 19 and has been on hormones since he was 18. He even has a tattoo with the date he started testosterone. While the idea that he could have been a dude with gyno, cancer or something else is completely reasonable, it just happens that Alex is trans, and I don't care about that. Alex is Alex. I did show him the post and got permission to update things. I would not have otherwise. He is also roaming this post somewhere, but probably won't comment. Notes. Alex is going to help me out with finding some low-cost or pay-scale therapy because he personally hasn't heard good things about the college's therapy services. Like everyone else has said, yes, it was abuse. I see that. I will also hold higher standards for myself in the future. Alex sent me the information for the therapist he sees, and I'll contact them in the morning. The landlord knows there is a domestic incident, and I trust him when it comes to making sure my ex doesn't show up. The do not allow list was made in mind for this reason. I am not ready to talk to my mom about this, but I hope with some therapy and time I will be. She knows something is going on, but she believes this is a break and not a breakup. Sorry if this sounds like rambling, it is. This has been a rough couple of weeks. My brain is fried and I'm tired. Keep in mind I'm still a full-time student during this. I also have to keep my grades up for my grants, scholarships, government aid, etc. I do read all comments, even the not-so-good ones. I will try to respond more before I sleep tonight, but just know even if I don't reply, I have read it. I appreciate all the advice, kicks in the rear, and the sympathy. A side note, I have seen a lot of trans people comment on this post, and I have had a few reach out to me in private. I am thankful for your comments as well. It has brought to my attention how tough things are out there because I honestly felt what I did was the bare minimum and not worthy of praise because it should just be expected. But I see that it is being praised for how low of a bar there is when it comes to human decency towards you, and I'm sorry for that and hope things get better. Uldar. Girlfriend of 5 years wanted me to kick out my chill roommate of 6 months because he is trans, which apparently means I'll sleep with him. Broke up with her. Kept the roommate. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, NTA, you have a good roommate. Trans or not, they are impossible to find. Your GF was the 1W issues. Get a restraining order? OOP. This morning I did respond to one of her messages with essentially and further communication will be used as evidence for a restraining order. The good thing she is on probation, and one of the rules is that if she commits any crimes while on probation, it'll probably be revoked. So if she messes up once, then she won't be my problem for a couple of years. Probation. She is on probation for DWI. One of the rules of her probation is that she can't violate the law. If she does, then that's a violation, and they may revoke her probation. On why he posted here. OOP. I originally asked this question on FB and was given a completely different answer. Basically keeping the peace, happy wife, happy life, see it from her point of view, etc. Commenter. Why are you so familiar with gynecomastia? OOP. I googled chest scars surgery male once, and the first thing that came up was a website talking about, do men have to worry about gynecomastia scars? This whole time I assumed Alex had that. Commenter. Bro, it legitimately sounds like you'd been railroaded into that one relationship for your entire life. The fact that you're going to be able to establish any standards is going to be a big step up. Therapy is definitely going to be important for that, and it's good you're seeking it out already. OOP. For real. The minute my pregnant mom found out I would be a boy, she immediately joked to Sarah's mom that this was perfect, because then I could date Sarah, and then our moms could be actual sisters or something. Couples' Halloween costumes, my mom coming up with plans to sneak me into Sarah's prom. It's a good thing Sarah can't have kids because my mom wouldn't stop about grandkid ideas until that was found out. Update, same post. October 31st, 2024, next day, 2 days from OG post. Official update. I talked to the therapist Alex recommended. Normally, I would be on the wait list until January, but due to the situation, the therapist referred me to one of his associates, and I'll be seen as early as next week. I also was recommended to attend a domestic violence support group that gathers once a month. I was originally not going to go because the idea was uncomfortable as fuck, but Alex said he'll go with me, so at least I'll know someone there, and we can leave if it's too weird for me. My mom is aware of the breakup. She is not too happy. I did not mention the trans part. I said that Sarah was being controlling and I didn't want to put up with it anymore. Got the usual, "That's a normal part of any relationship" comments, but I stood my ground. My mom seems to be under the same delusion as Sarah that this is a small argument or something, and we will get back together. But that is absolutely no happening. I don't really talk to Sarah's mom, so I don't know her thoughts on the matter. The landlord is aware of the situation and will not let Sarah in, should she try to show up. If you don't have the gate code, you have to go to the main office and the employee, landlord's son, will buzz the person in if they are on your accepted people list or call the tenant and ask if they aren't on the list. If the individual is on the do not let in list, especially if it involves a criminal matter, they will be asked to leave. If they don't leave, then it becomes trespassing. I know this sounds like a lot, but the security is why a lot of people live here. Notes after reading some comments. I am sorry for trivializing my abuse. It still feels weird to say abuse, but I do know that it is abuse. Slapping, pushing, and shoving is physical abuse. And if another person came up and told me their partner was doing that, I would call it abuse. It's not that I don't think women can be abusive, but as I said in one of the comments, I don't view it as abuse when it's towards me. This is probably due to being abused by my mom, which I am going to get help for. For reference, when I mention my mom's abuse, it's why I'm low contact with her. The reason why I was extremely underweight as a kid is because she just straight up didn't feed me a lot of the time. CPS got called a lot but never did anything. They also didn't take any claims by my teachers that I was being abused as creditable because there were no marks or bruises, which has warped my view on abuse. Going forward, if I date again, then I won't put up with any physical or verbal abuse. A couple of comments helped by saying that if I was confused on if it was wrong, to think about if it was another person going through it, which has been helpful in what I feel is right and wrong treatment towards me. After a lot of talking, it turns out Alex and I have been friends this whole time, but because I've never had an introvert friend before, I didn't exactly realize. Alex says he didn't want to annoy me by trying to chat with me all the time, which ironically is what I was feeling. Now we're going to hang out more, and he is trying to get me to join the D&D game he is in. Thank you for reading my giant block of text. I'm on the app, and I don't exactly know how to format. I'm grateful for all the comments, regardless if they are good or bad. I do read all of them. OOP's comment, telling mom about the abuse. I agree with your comment. The unfortunate thing is that my mom is aware of her physical verbal abuse and didn't really do anything about it. She would make excuses for Sarah, such as how Sarah just needs help. She's stressed, and that isn't abuse because Sarah didn't leave marks or bruises directly. My mom is not happy about the breakup and is in the denial stage right now, but the roommate issue hasn't been brought up. If it is brought up, I am going to say Alex had heart surgery, which is the excuse Alex uses. Update post, December 21st, 2024, 7 weeks later. Hey everyone, I'm really sorry it's taken so long to update. I've been focusing on my mental health and keeping up with school, but overall, I'm doing better than I ever have. I've been going to therapy every week. It'll be every other week starting in January. Attending a domestic violence support group every other week, playing D&D weekly. And I've made several new friends through the support group in D&D. Honestly, if it weren't for Alex, I'm not sure I'd have made it this far. He's driven me to therapy, gone to the support group with me even though he didn't need to, got me into D&D, and introduced me to his friends, who are now also my friends. As for Sarah, who I regret giving that fake name because one of my new friends has the same name, she's in jail. After my initial post, Sarah tried to show up at my apartment, but because she was on the Do Not Let In list, She wasn't allowed in. Instead, she waited for another resident to open the gate, ducked behind their car, and tried to sneak in. She was caught immediately, and the landlord called the police to issue her a formal trespass notice. After that, I began the process of getting a PPO, personal protective order. A week later, Sarah was arrested on charges unrelated to my apartment. She was arrested for trespassing, after warning, resisting without violence, and disorderly conduct. She's currently in jail awaiting her court date. It's likely not going to go well for her since she was already on probation for a second DWI/DUI, and one of the conditions of her probation was to not break the law. How do I know all this? A mutual friend posted it on his Snap story. More good news, my PPO was approved on Monday. It took too long in my opinion, but whatever, it's finally done. Now for some difficult news. I'm officially no contact with my mom. I know logically this is the right decision because she's not a healthy person, but it still hurts. After talking with my therapist and in support group, I realized that my views on healthy relationships and abuse were really warped, especially by my mom. I know some might say it's important to forgive her or at least give her a chance to change, but I just can't. I can't bring myself to forgive her. She neglected me as a child, physically and verbally abused me into adulthood, and even encouraged me to date an adult when I was a minor. After reflecting on everything, I also can't bring myself to say I love her. I realize I only felt that way out of obligation and pity. My mom was taken advantage of when she was a minor, which led to her pregnancy with me, and I do feel bad for her. But instead of seeking help, she chose not to. Now I'm using her as a reverse moral compass. Whatever she did, I now try to do the opposite. This Christmas, I'm spending time with Alex and his family, which I guess is now also my family. I'm really thankful for the continued support from all of you, and I'll try to provide more updates moving forward. OOP's comment. Commenter. Downvoted. I am really happy for you. I know this is an odd question, but are you and Alex just friends or... OOP. Admittedly, I don't know how to answer this properly, and I don't even know if I want to answer it. While almost all of the comments on the initial post were overwhelmingly positive, there were some negative comments who teased that I must like Alex or something. It also felt upsetting because it was implying that I only did the right thing because I must have had feelings or must have been fucking Alex. But on the other hand, I'm not ashamed of Alex and shouldn't let those negative comments control me. I'm just going to say it here, and if anyone says anything disrespectful, then I just won't respond. Very recently, as of a few days ago, I am now dating Alex. At first, we joked around about us pretending to get together to spite my ex, but then it became less of a joke. Sexuality-wise, I'm not sure where I'm at. I realize now I didn't exactly find my ex attractive romantically or sexually. I mistook platonic, almost familial love for something else, plus I was being pushed to date her from the start. Even after finally having women friends, I really don't find them attractive in that way. The only one who I liked was Alex, which I realize doesn't make me straight, but I'm not sure what to call myself now. I'm taking this one step at a time. Story 11. I have 2 weeks to get away from my husband. Throwaway account as my husband and in-laws are follow my main. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, 30M, who I'll call Alex. Alex and I met in college during our freshman year. We started off as just friends and got married 7 months ago. I've gotten along with his family, but we aren't super close, but we're friendly enough. The problem is that Alex has begun to make me incredibly uncomfortable. Firstly, he's begun to ask me who I'm meeting with, where, what we plan on doing, how long every single time I leave the house without him. At first, I just thought he was being protective and a good partner just in case something happened. But then he started checking my phone after the visits, vetting and researching each of my friends as well. He also has been pursuing me to link my bank account to his, as he's in charge of the finances when he was perfectly fine with keeping them separate before. We fight about it almost every day. Finally, yesterday when he was preparing to go on a work trip for 2 weeks in California, he demanded I wear a tracker so he could keep an eye on me while he's gone. I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm suffocating, and his family, who I've spoken to about his worrying behavior, just said he's being careful and protective as a good husband should. I need to gather my things together and find a way to be gone before he gets home without tipping him off. He's always threatened that if he ever found me cheating on him, he'd turn in divorce papers the same day. He keeps a filled-out copy in his desk. I'm going to submit those the day I leave. But there's so much to do: Bergen finding a new place to live, seeing if my job has any transfers available, packing and moving in 2 weeks. His return flight May 11th, so I need to move quickly. I'm posting here because I don't have any close family, and I can't risk dragging my friends into this as we share the same friends. I just needed a place to vent and ask if anyone has any advice on the easiest and safest way to do this. Edit. Oh my God, you guys are amazing. I never even thought to not use his divorce papers. I'll check for cameras before I start any packing or prepping. I may also shred his divorce papers just in case and look into getting a lawyer for myself. I'm in a no-fault divorce state, that much I so remember, which will help. I'll update again when I know more. The tracker he wants me to use is a small clip to put on the belt or waistband. I'll wear it unless I'm going or doing something related to me leaving. No pets yet, thankfully. Update April 28, 2024. So I've gotten a lot of support and helpful advice along with questions I thought I should clarify before I proceed with the update. Some asked why I'd be hiding things from Alex regarding going out and who I'm meeting with. I don't, and I have nothing to hide. However, when he begins to then double-check everything I tell him with the other people there, right down to each person I talked to and what I said. Did I send any text MSGs? Did I order food? How much did I eat? That's when it started to feel like I was slowly being pushed into a corner. It didn't start that bad, but gradually grew worse over time. All of the Reddit subs my in-laws' families are part of are related gardening and DIY, so I highly doubt they'll see this. If so, by the time they do, I'll hopefully be gone. I talked to my job and explained things to my manager, and they promised to look into openings in other states to see if they could get me into one. They'll have an update on that in 3 days. I trust that my bank account is secured, considering he's tried to get into it before and failed. I found one camera in the kitchen, another in the living room, and one in our bedroom. As such, I've left them in place for now and done all other planning, either in the bathroom pretending I'm taking a bath. I'm honestly staying away from the domestic violence services as my sister-in-law is unfortunately higher up in those considering she volunteers there, and I have a feeling if I did show up there, they would know in a heartbeat. I can't look for apartments until I get the update from my work, but either or I'm still going to be leaving the state. The day before I do, I will be changing my number carrier and wiping my laptop and all of his electronics before I do. I've met with 2 lawyers so far and had them look over the paperwork. My husband had prepared and both said that it did have some clauses in it. That could have caused me some trouble down the line. What alarmed all of us closed the fact that several of those clauses dealt with future children, and not as a hypothetical. Like several hairs suggested, I have a feeling he fully intended on getting me pregnant to keep me trapped and tied to him. There are 3 other locations my job could send me to, and I have. As a precaution, begun looking into all 3 cities and housing in the areas. Just in case one of those, this is the one they send me to. Even if they don't have an opening that they can push me into, then I will just have to quit, move, and figure things out on my own. I have enough money to live and survive for a few months until I can pick up another job. Unfortunately, all of our friends are mutuals and would likely be unaware of the consequences of saying or sharing anything I do or say with my husband. I don't have any surviving close family, and obviously my in-laws are not a good resource to rely on. I am on my own, unfortunately, other than the wonderful bonds I've begun to make here. I will update again if I get more information or something else happens. Otherwise, I'll update when my work gets back to me. I do plan on leaving before he returns, though, just to make sure that I'm not anywhere near here at that time. Update 2 April 30th, 2024. Good news. My work has an opening I qualify for that will not only shift me across the country, but also comes with a salary increase as well. I've started telling my in-laws and friends that I'm planning a surprise outing for when my husband gets back for just the 2 of us. This way, people don't give me odd looks if they see me out and about. I've even gone as far as asking Amiel to show me his favorite recipes. Meanwhile, I've found a moving company that, while small, is willing to work in a storm. The reason is, in 5 days, We're supposed to get hit with a large storm front. I plan to shut off the breaker and say we lost power if he asks, just as several people here suggested, and even send him a short clip of the storm. I will have all of my stuff moved that afternoon, and I will be flying out once the weather has cleared enough to do so. I have a lawyer who will push my divorce through, and I've filled out the necessary paperwork so that I don't have to be here for it. I'm not suing for assets or alimony, and I've shredded his divorce papers as well. I've set up a cheap payphone plan through Cricket until this is all said and done, at which point I will find a new carrier, number and phone. This one is being wiped and left behind. My laptop is provided by my work, and the IT department inspected it thoroughly, and it was clean, thankfully. No other electronic aside from my laptop and new phone will be coming with me. If Alex needs to talk to me, he can do it through my lawyer. Not sure if anything else will happen. My fingers are crossed that he doesn't think anything's amiss until after I leave, and I'm not turning the breaker back on when I do. He can when he gets home. My work is covering the plane ticket, so that at least is one expense I don't have to finagle in. Update 3 May 7th, 2024. It's been a busy week, but I've gotten so much done. Firstly, I am now out of the house, and am currently in a hotel while I look for an apartment. It's a big city, bustling with people no matter where you look. We had a pretty bad storm system hit back home. That actually lasted 2 days. High winds, thunder, lightning, and even hail everywhere. I didn't take much from the house, my documents, clothes, and important sentimental items. I left all of the furniture and electronics behind. I cleaned the house top to bottom and took pictures on my phone so he couldn't claim I damaged anything when I left. My lawyer has already started divorce proceedings, and my husband will be served on the 8th. His plane is due to land early morning, and the sheriff will be there at the house waiting for him. He is very much about public appearances and reputation. My lawyer will be calling him as well to inform him that I am more than willing to air out everything to the public about his actions if it means securing my freedom from him. I will go to court as long as I must to get this pushed through. I haven't told our friends or his in-laws yet. I will do that while he is on the flight to prevent him from getting wind of it before he's handed the divorce papers. I will be calling around and explaining why we're getting divorced, to try and prevent him from twisting this into somehow being my fault. I don't want him trying to claim I had an affair or something, so I want to get the truth out before he can twist this. I'm doing okay. I'm tired, but yet I feel almost jittery and off-kilter. I keep looking over my shoulder and monitoring what I say even when I don't really need to anymore. Hopefully that will fade soon. My work is covering the cost of the hotel, and I'm working on getting my other things in order. I also need to find a new GP as I want to get a full test just to make sure everything is okay. I don't know when my next update will be, probably when the divorce papers are filed or if we have to go to court to push them through. I will try to keep my head up, but it feels like I'm in a whirlwind or something with so many things to do and think about. I kind of thought it would be easier once I got out of the house, but while the fear is smaller, somehow the number of tasks only seems to have grown. Update 4 May 14th, 2024. Sorry I haven't updated for a while. Things got hectic and a bit chaotic, honestly. Firstly, I'm working on getting an apartment still, and have applications in at 3 different places, and will hopefully hear back from them soon. I'm still going into work here at the new location, so I don't have to worry about burning through my emergency savings completely. I've gotten a lot of emails from Alex, his family, and our old friend group asking question after question. I have only sent one return email to Alex, explaining that I don't believe we are truly compatible, and it is best we separate now. That his treatment of me when I'd done nothing to deserve as such was just as much of a deal-breaker as cheating was for him. I ended the email with the statement that I would not be contacting him further, and anything else he needed to pass on to me, or vice versa, would be done through my lawyer. For his family and friends, I just typed up one email outlining everything that had happened and why I left. I told them I wished them no ill will, but that such treatment of his wife and partner was not acceptable. That should Alex get remarried in the future, I wished they would help support both partners, and not just Alex. Alex, from what my lawyer told me, was livid when he was served. The sheriff actually ended up booking him for assault on an officer and menacing due to the threats he was shouting. His father bailed him out in a few hours, but with the testimony of the sheriff, my lawyer believes I have a very good chance at getting a restraining order. Alex, upon returning to the house, apparently lost his temper again, breaking the dining table into pieces as well as the TV, and putting several holes in the walls. At least that's what one of the emails from one of our friends reported as Alex called him to help him clean up the mess. My lawyer already has pictures of the house I took, with timestamps as evidence nothing had been damaged by me. My friend reported that Alex tried to claim I'd been the one to trash the house, but the holes in the wall were at head height. Alex is 6'3", and I'm 5'4 inches, so he knew that was false. Either way, taking the pictures definitely will help me, so again, thank you everyone here for the advice, because I never would have thought of that on my own. My work won't share details of where I am, as I do work with some higher-end clientele who value security, and that information won't be gossiped about, and no, I'm not some stripper or escort. I deal with contracts, notary, and business management. As such, even if Alex tried to use my work to find me, he wouldn't succeed. Update on leaving May 26, 2024. It's been a little bit, and I thought I'd answer some questions before giving my update. It may be a while after this until things change. Firstly, no, I didn't bring my car. The public transport here is good enough to use without needing one. I have secured an apartment, and the building has good security. You need a key card to enter, and there is a security guard at a desk right by the entrance to the building. As part of my contract, I gave them a photo of Alex and his family, so that even in the off chance they do find me, they won't be let in. The responses I got from the emails varied. His family said I was overreacting, and that I owe Alex an apology for the problems this has caused him. The pending criminal charges puts him at risk of losing his job if he's convicted. Alex sent a long email, apologizing and pleading for me to come home. He said he was worried for me, that he is willing to go to therapy if it will appease me. He wants us to remain together, and he didn't think leaving was an appropriate response to his genuine concern and worry for my health and safety. The friends gave somewhat lacking replies, saying that they didn't think Alex was ever going to hurt me, and that I shouldn't be letting my imagination run away wild. As much as I want to say I was surprised by the lack of support, I'm honestly not. He intends to fight the divorce. I am letting my lawyer handle it, and I am also pursuing a protective order as well. Once I got approved for my apartment, I also froze my credit. I've changed my phone carrier and number, as well as making sure none of my documents list Alex as next of kin or POA. Some have asked why I was so paranoid about Alex and his possible future actions. The answer for that actually is somewhat simple. My grandmother. I loved that woman to bits. As a teen, she explained why my grandfather was never around. He was extremely abusive and manipulative, and her generation didn't allow divorce, really. She wouldn't have been able to buy a house or get a good enough job to support her and my mother on her own. As such, she endured it, shielded my mom as she could until my grandfather died. When I felt like I may have been overreacting, I remembered how she'd said she'd always wished she'd been able to see grandfather for what he was early on when she may have been able to annul the marriage. I don't know when I'll update again. Maybe when the divorce goes through, or if something big happens, but until then, I'm just trying to keep my head above the water. Another update, June 25th, 2024. It's been a month since my previous update, and I wanted to share some of what's been going on in the meantime. The divorce is proceeding, but even though I don't need him to agree, and he's not, it means I have to go through the courts to get it approved. As such, it could be upwards of 6 months to push it through, even though I'm filing without attempting to claim property, alimony, or compensation. I just want a clean break and separation. Alex has attempted to use our friends to reach out to me, as he doesn't want to use my lawyer for communication. He's saying it's disrespectful and cowardly to hide behind my lawyer and not meet him face to face. Alex wrote me a letter that he did pass off to my lawyer, but the contents were him justifying his actions and claiming that in today's time it is dangerous for women to be on their own, which is why he was so intent on trying to keep me safe from harm. He wanted me to understand that he was trying to protect me as best he could and was hurt that I would just lie to him and hide my actions from him related to my dissatisfaction with our marriage and my moving. I didn't reply because at no point did he apologize. All he did was turn everything around on me as I was being overly dramatic, emotional, and cowardly. There was a second letter with Alex's from my Sael. Her letter was honestly disturbing and completely justified my misgivings regarding approaching her in any kind of professional capacity. She spent 5 paragraphs detailing how a real abusive relationship looked like, and that Alex was the furthest thing from abusive. The details she included were all related to financial abuse and physical abuse. Nothing like what Alex had been doing. She stated that my attempts to smear her brother's name for attention and clout made me the abuser, not him. I haven't really been able to process that, admittedly. Part of me can't help but wonder if she's right. I mean, I blindsided him by leaving as I did, and am refusing to speak with him at all. My old boss recommended that I look into getting into therapy after I moved, and I think I need to. I have had a hard time adjusting to being on my own. I keep censoring myself, and haven't even gone out to eat yet. I always end up worrying about what if someone sees me. What if I get in trouble for spending my money on something frivolous? My lawyer is continuing to fight for the divorce, and I shouldn't need to be physically present in court. Any meetings needed between me and the judge can be done via Zoom. I'm trying to avoid confrontation with Alex and his family for now as much as I can, and passed both letters to my lawyer in case he needs them. Our friends are mostly trying to avoid taking sides still, and I'm honestly approaching the point of just letting them go as well. I'm tired of fighting for them to understand at this point. I don't know if anything is going to happen, so my next update may not be until around mid-November, depending on how long it takes to push the divorce through. Work is going well, and it's helpful to have something familiar to anchor my day-to-day life when so much has changed and is changing even now. Divorce Proceeding Update, October 17th, 2024. It's been a while since I last updated, as I needed to let the court step in as Alex was not willing to grant my request for a divorce. We started with mediated session via Zoom, but after 4 sessions it was decided that no compromise could be reached between us. The things Alex was pushing for were ones I'm not even willing to humor, let alone agree to. He wanted me to tell our friends and those I'd sent the information to about his actions that I'd made it up in order to gain sympathy. He also wanted me to pay him for defamation and suffering, especially the wages he lost because of sitting in jail for 2 days and missing work before getting bailed out. Lastly, he also wanted me to return and, to quote him, stop my foolish behavior and act like a proper wife and partner. So, needless to say, our mediated sessions went absolutely nowhere. The judge isn't seeming to buy into Alex's act, thankfully, because he certainly tried. It took me far too long to see Alex for who he was, and part of me feels like an idiot because I didn't see it at all. Yet, the judge seemed to clock him for exactly what he is within the first meeting. Maybe I just didn't want to see it. I don't know. Alex ended up arguing with the judge a lot, even being held in contempt 4 different times. I think it's honestly why this moved as quick as it did. It didn't help that Alex tried to pull in his family as character witnesses, but they were dismissed by the judge as the abuse wasn't seen or heard by them, and as such they only knew part of Alex's character. In his closing statement after he approved the divorce, he went on to call Alex a narcissist, and that if Alex loved himself so much to abuse the one he'd married, to let the divorce happen and marry a mirror next. I didn't think a judge was allowed to say that at all. But my lawyer just shook his head and told me not to say anything, so we left. So here's the update I'm sure everyone's been hoping for and guessed. I'm officially divorced. The documents were processed 3 days ago, and I'm still in disbelief. I have no contact with Alex any longer, nor do I want any. I'm not going to give our friends my new contact information. I may not have replied to everyone, though I tried, but I did read all of your comments. I really did. Your repeated statements about how they weren't actually friends really helped me see that they weren't, so I decided that since I moved far from that place, I needed to start over. New home, new place, new friends. It's slow, And I've started therapy, though it took almost 3 months to get it due to the usual wait times, but I've been going 3 times a week ever since. It's helping, even with things I thought were done and dusted. Alex didn't take the divorce well, according to my lawyer, who's been keeping up with him to make sure he stays away from me. He did something at work. I don't know what, as obviously I have no way to gain that information. But whatever it was cost him his job. My lawyer also did something I didn't expect him to, but something I think everyone will like. He took the letter my ex-Sil sent me and forwarded it to the domestic violence organization she works for, along with an informal statement regarding Alex, his actions, and the decision of the judge. She's been let go as well, and given how tight those organizations are with one another, my lawyer said that the likelihood of her getting a position at another is slim to none. I actually laughed, though I was a bit teary when he said that, and that slim is on a leaky rowboat to China. I've been crying a lot lately, but my therapist says it's normal and shows I'm actually processing things instead of bottling them up and pushing them down. I'll try to update in a month or so, if my emotions level out some, to explain a few more of the details, but I wanted to get this out there, and thank everyone for their continued support and encouragement. I appreciate each and every one of you. I really do. You gave me the hope that leaving him wasn't going to be this giant black mark I'd never heal from or move on from. Work is going well, and the sense of normality and routine is helping me avoid feeling like everything has been spiraling out of control. New update. I'm working on me now. November 18th, 2024. It's been a month since I finally was able to share the success of my divorce from Alex. My mood swings are still happening, but they don't last quite as long anymore, so I'm taking that as a good sign. My therapist recommended that I sign up for some kind of physical activity, just to help work out and channel what she called the fight-flight instincts more. So I've joined a local self-defense club and I'm going twice a week. I felt really awkward in the beginning, but they've all been super nice and welcoming, so it's been easier. It has helped, I think. A lot of my jitteriness and anxiety has calmed and I'm sleeping better as well. I've also joined a book club. Though it's all online at the moment, they're discussing the possibility of meeting in person rather than over Skype at a local park. It's hard, honestly. I feel like a kid that just changed schools and sometimes feel like it's either sink or swim. My therapist pointed out that if I feel like I'm sinking, to stop, take a step back and remind myself that I have all the control over my actions. If I don't like something, I don't have to do it. I can feel my emotions, but I also need to not let them control and dictate my actions. She also pointed out how I've developed a tendency to try and fix other people's bad moods. She told me that they're adults, and it's not my responsibility to manage anyone else's emotions other than my own. It's been hard, but I'm getting there. I think in a year, as a celebration for my divorce, I may go visit my grandmother's grave. Just to talk, if nothing else, as silly as that may sound. I passed on your thanks to my lawyer, who smiled and said, a bit smugly I might add, that he loves giving people who thought they were untouchable the karma they deserved. He went on to add that he enjoyed being karma's helping hand. My lawyer has kept abreast of what's been happening with Alex and his sister both, just to make sure they don't try anything. According to him, my ex-Sil threw a fit when she was let go from the DV center, enough that she was barred from the premises. It seems that she shares some traits with her brother in regards to temper. She's now working at Lowe's, apparently. As while she was a volunteer at the DV center, she has to pay some fines for damages she caused during the incident that got her banned. As for Alex, he's been quiet, which worried me at first. But my lawyer told me he's keeping his head down. He's gotten another job with a construction crew, but with everything he has to pay, he cannot afford to lose his job. I was awarded damages for emotional distress and harm, as he never touched me physically. I was able to prove my statements thanks to records of the text conversations between Alex and I regarding the tracker and not leaving the house without permission. As my financial situation is stable, I don't need alimony, so my lawyer advised not to try for it and focus on compensation for damages instead. Alex's family apparently hates me now, as they've reached out to my lawyer, telling him to pass on the message that I've successfully ruined both Alex and his sister's lives over my lies. Honestly, at this point, I'm getting to the point of not caring anymore. I only have so much to give right now for emotional needs, and I want it for my own, not to expend on someone else, if that makes any kind of sense. So that's where I'm at right now. It's hard coming up to the holidays and being alone, but a few weeks ago I found a kitten in the alley next to my work. He's a tiny, raggedy little thing. He's black, long hair with 3 white paws, and he's also missing his tail. He's got the first vertebrae, but nothing else. According to the vet, Mom may have accidentally bitten it off at birth, which I didn't even know happened, but apparently it does. I'm calling him Bandit, so I'm not alone anymore, but now I have a kitten that thinks everything needs to be hunted, including my toes too. I wear slippers constantly because those little claws of his are like freaking daggers, I swear. I'll update again if anyone wants me to, but yeah, that's where things are now.